Hello and welcome back, guys. We're now starting a new story, Chef's Kiss, by Hidreaamy. You can find author's profile link in the description. Let's begin Chapter 1, Paper Wings. The cheers still echoed in his ears. Izuku. I love you. Angel of Japan. You're perfect. Backstage lights dimmed, and the rush of the performance vanished like smoke. Izuku Midoriya, glitter still dusting his eyelashes, slipped quietly into the silence of his unit room, a minimalist luxury box far too clean, far too sterile. The second the door clicked shut, the mask fell. His smile evaporated. His hands trembled. His stomach growled loud, painful. He hadn't eaten since. Was it morning? Half a banana and a protein cube. His manager had handed it to him like a reward, not a necessity. We're cutting sodium this week, she'd said sweetly. You bloated in that green jacket last night. He clutched his stomach, almost collapsing to the floor as the cramps twisted like knives in his gut. He gasped, staggering to the kitchenette. I need something. I'm dying. Izuku yanked open cabinets, shoving aside empty wrappers and hidden boxes. His hands found what he'd stashed during rehearsals: instant ramen, stale crackers, a single can of beer hidden like contraband. His fingers trembled as he boiled water. The ramen hit the pot with a hiss. He didn't wait. The noodles were barely soft when he poured them into a bowl and shoved them down, burning his tongue. He chased the heat with the beer, then the crackers. His hands moved fast, desperate, like if he could just finish before the guilt set in, before his body betrayed him again, but it did. Minutes later, he was on his knees in the bathroom, coughing and gagging into the toilet. Everything came back up. His body refused to accept it. His stomach clenched in betrayal, trained by years of restriction and conditioning. Even now, it rejected comfort like poison. He slumped against the cold tile, tears slipping silently down his face. You're supposed to love this, he whispered to himself bitterly. You're supposed to be living the dream. His reflection in the mirror, a hollowed-out boy in glitter and eyeliner, stared back like a stranger. His body was no longer his own. It belonged to the cameras, the fans, the magazines. It belonged to a schedule, to branding deals, to trending hashtags. It belonged to everyone except him. And worse. It had learned to punish him for trying to reclaim it. The private rooftop was a rare treat after weeks of grueling rehearsals and high-pressure showcases. Fairy lights strung overhead swayed in the gentle night breeze, and the cityscape of Tokyo glimmered in the background. Izuku sat with a practiced smile at the circular table. Beside him were his longtime co-trainees, now successful idols in their own right. Uraraka from girl group Stellar Beat, Jairu the sultry soloist with razor-sharp vocals, and the famously beloved Mina and Kirishima, the couple who defied dating bans by being too charismatic to cancel. Laughter echoed around the table. Kirishima had just finished retelling a behind-the-scenes blooper from their last music video. Mina snorted into her drink. Uraraka clapped with a bright giggle. Jairu rolled her eyes but smiled. Plates of grilled meat, sushi rolls, dumplings, and tangy side dishes littered the table, the smell rich and inviting. Except for Izuku's plate. He picked at a single cucumber slice. Deku, Mina said mid-laugh, raising an eyebrow. You haven't touched anything since we sat down. Yeah, Kirishima added, concern slipping into his voice. You okay, man? You barely moved all day, and now you're not eating. Izuku waved them off with that same wide, toothy smile that had graced every fan cam and magazine cover. I'm just full from earlier. Ate a bit backstage, he lied smoothly. I'm honestly just here for the company. Jairu narrowed her eyes slightly, observant. But you haven't had time to eat since noon. Uraraka, always gentle, leaned forward. You sure? You look pale. Izuku laughed again, carefree, bright, and polished. Seriously, guys. I'm good. But even as he deflected them, his eyes drifted past the edge of the rooftop. Down below, on the street across from their building, he caught sight of a small, softly lit sign, Kamigami Kitchen, Home-Style Comfort Food. It was new. He hadn't seen it before. The warm glow inside reminded him of something. Something far away. Maybe his mother's cooking. Maybe the fantasy of freedom he no longer had. His heart skipped. Would they let me eat until I'm full? Would they judge me if I cleaned the whole plate? Would I cry while doing it? Would I throw it all up the moment I got home anyway? A bitter taste curled in his throat. He wanted to sneak out tonight. Walk into that place like a normal person. Just order something warm. Something that tasted like belonging. But his fingers curled tightly beneath the table. What would be the point? His body wouldn't keep it. It never did. Everything comforting had become fleeting. Foreign. Forbidden. He wasn't a person with cravings anymore, he was a product with limits. A symbol of DSPLN. Perfection. Control. Even hunger had become a threat. An hour after laughter faded and hugs were exchanged, Izuku Midoriya slipped out the back exit of the agency building with his hood up and mask on. The streets were quiet, the neon signs casting streaks of color across the pavement like dreams he once dared to chase. His steps were light but quick, his heartbeat anxious and fast. He couldn't explain why he didn't have to. His body knew this was rebellion. Across the road, the soft golden light of Kamigami Kitchen welcomed him like an old friend. A modest place, wooden signage, wide windows fogged gently by the kitchen's warmth. A little bell chimed when he pushed the door open. There were only a few late-night patrons inside, some students chatting in the corner, a tired office worker sipping soup near the window. The woman at the counter gave him a polite nod. "Welcome, dear. Sit anywhere you like." Izuku nodded silently, slipping into a booth near the back. The cushion hugged his frame. The scent rice, grilled miso, fried garlic, warm soy broth hit him like a memory of a life he'd left behind. She brought the menu. He stared. Everything screamed home. Oyakodon. Pork katsudon. Nikujiga. Handmade gyoza. Fried saba. Miso eggplant. Fresh tofu. Steamed rice. Tamagoyaki. Udon. Kare raisu. He couldn't decide. So he didn't. "I'd like all of these," he said, tapping the list with shaking fingers. The server blinked. "Oh. You mean these four? Or all," he whispered. "Just half servings. Please. I want to try all." She hesitated, studying him. He kept his mask on, eyes lowered. Maybe she sensed something but not who he was. After all, idols don't eat like this. "Coming right up," she said softly. 20 minutes later the table looked like a family feast. Small plates of rich, lovingly prepared food surrounded him like a banquet of dreams. He stared at it. Hands trembling. He started with the oyakodon chicken, soft and sweet egg, warm rice soaking in comfort. He brought it to his lips, took a bite. Then another. Then miso eggplant. Then a spoonful of curry. A mouthful of udon, delicate broth sliding down his throat. Then crispy gyoza, dipped in vinegar soy. Then sweet tamagoyaki, fluffy and golden like his mom used to make. By the time he hit the fifth plate, his hands were shaking violently. Tears slipped down his cheeks before he noticed. He took another bite. The flavors were nostalgic. Humble. Human. His body felt full after just a few bites from each, but not the comforting kind. His gut turned. Pain crept up his sides, squeezing his ribs. He clenched his stomach, trying not to react. Not here. Please, not here. But it was happening again. That slow, building sickness. A heaviness crawling up his throat like betrayal. Like guilt. Like punishment. He dropped his spoon. His breath came shallow and fast. A quiet voice escaped. "Excuse me," he whispered, calling the waitress over with shaking fingers. Can you please pack these up? I don't want to waste them." She blinked at the untouched spread, surprised, but nodded kindly. "Of course. Are you all right?" He smiled through his tears. "Why yeah. I just overestimated my appetite." Chapter 2, Back Alley Magic. He ran. As soon as he got the bag of leftovers, he bowed quickly, muttered a thank you, and pushed out the door. The night air hit his face like ice. He turned the corner, ducked behind the neighboring building into a narrow alley. Garbage bins lined the side, the only witnesses to his spiral. He dropped to his knees, covered his mouth with one hand, clutching his stomach with the other. He vomited everything. Each heave felt like another piece of him unraveling. The warmth, the love, the hope in every bite gone in minutes. He sat there panting, shaking. Silent tears ran down his face again as he stared at the cold concrete. He didn't deserve that food. He couldn't even keep it. And worse, he had wasted something made with kindness. Something sacred. He hated himself for that. The plastic bag of leftovers sat nearby. Still warm. His body trembled under the weight of guilt and hunger and sadness that never quite left. He clutched the bag like a lifeline and whispered to no one, "I just wanted to feel okay." The sour taste lingered on his tongue, his ribs still sore from retching. But the ache in his chest had softened. Izuku pulled his mask up again, hiding his swollen eyes as he leaned back against the cold brick wall, the warm bag of packed food nestled beside him like a secret apology. He didn't move for a long time. Until laughter. Music. Feet slapping the pavement. He turned his head slowly, blinking as his ears caught the faint sounds of singing. Childish, off-key, and glowing with joy. Down the alley's curve, under a flickering streetlight, he saw them. 5 kids, ragged in mismatched clothes, cheeks smudged with soot and city dust. One had a toy microphone made of foil and tape. Another held a broken phone playing tinny instrumental music. A girl twirled in oversized slippers. The others clapped off-beat but beamed like they stood on the Tokyo Dome stage. "We're shining like the stars above, yeah. Even if we got no roof, we got love." They danced, giggled, mimicked routines they'd seen online, little feet stumbling in earnest passion. One boy even posed dramatically, arms spread. "I'm Izuku Midoriya. Angel voice of the sky," he shouted. Izuku choked on a small laugh. They didn't know. They didn't recognize the tired man in the hoodie watching from the shadows, the one who sang that very song in front of 50,000 fans just 3 nights ago. They were just being kids. Dreaming. The way I used to. Without thinking, Izuku stood and stepped closer. The motion was slow, tentative. He didn't want to scare them. The kids froze, startled. But then they saw his smile. "Hey," Izuku said gently. "That was amazing. You all sounded better than me." One of the girls blinked. "You know the song?" He chuckled, soft and warm. "Yeah. I listen to it sometimes." The smallest boy eyed the bag in his hand. "Mister, is that food?" Izuku knelt down without hesitation, sitting on the dirty concrete like it was a royal seat. "It is. I can't finish it. Think you can help me?" Their eyes widened. "You're sharing? Really?" He nodded, passing out the containers like precious treasure. No one hesitated. They were polite, murmuring thank yous and quick bows before digging in with clumsy, starved hands. Izuku watched them, heart full and breaking at the same time. No cameras. No lights. No fake laughter or diet notes. Just hunger and gratitude and wonder. He stayed with them as they ate. Wiped one boy's mouth with a napkin. Let the girl braid his sleeve strings. Even helped beatbox with them as they sang another chorus, his chorus completely off key. And when they got sleepy, bellies full, they leaned against him. Sing to us, the oldest asked, voice already soft with sleep. Izuku hesitated. Then nodded. He began to hum just barely at first. Then quietly, tenderly, the notes flowing from his throat like a lullaby he'd never been allowed to sing for himself. Even if I fly too far, and lose the light behind the star, just whisper once, I'll find my way back to your heart someday. The kids slipped into sleep, curled around each other like stray cats. He kept singing. His voice cracked once. He cried again, but this time quietly, gently. They didn't know. They didn't know they were resting against the idol they pretended to be. That the real Izuku Midoriya, not the shining one, not the perfect one, was here in their alley, holding on to their tiny dreams like they were lifelines. Meanwhile Katsuki Bakugo had taken the long way home that night. He wasn't sure why. His shift at the auto garage had ended late. He'd grabbed some dinner from a cart vendor and let his feet wander. There was something about walking through this old district less polished, more human, that made him feel less alone. As he turned a corner, he saw the faint outline of someone in the alley. Someone singing. A soft, aching voice. Real. Appealing. Like it didn't belong in a place like this. He stepped closer, cautious. There, under the dim alley light, a man in a hoodie, with a mask on his face and sitting on the ground, was there. Surrounded by sleeping kids. One of them resting on his lap. The man is brushing a hand through a boy's tangled hair with more tenderness than Bakugo had seen in a long time. Bakugo didn't speak. Didn't move. Just stared. Because something in his chest twisted. That voice. That face he couldn't full see. That pain in his voice. And even though he didn't know the man, didn't know his name or story or why he was holding kids and heartbreak in the same breath, Katsuki couldn't look away. Chapter 3, Eat, Smile, Swallow. The room was white, clean, and cold. Not literally, but in atmosphere. A long oval table, glass walls, and the echo of keyboards ticking in rhythm. Izuku sat in one of the chairs, back straight, eyes glazed. Across the table, his manager flipped through slides on a monitor. Brand logos flashed, skincare, athletic wear, water bottles, more photo shoots. Izuku nodded at intervals like clockwork. She kept speaking, voice high and bright. Then there's the spring campaign for the vitamin brand. We'll schedule your shoot next Monday morning. Just a shirtless segment, quick. Oh. And Midoriya, you'll be doing that food commercial, too. Izuku blinked slowly. Food commercial. Yes. You'll love it. She turned a page in her planner without even looking at him. It's with the top new restaurant Umi to High. Owned by Katsuki Bakugo. Ring any bells? He's the chef that won the European Platinum Flame and Tokyo's Rising Star this year. Genius level palate, zero tolerance for pretentious food. That kind. Izuku's BLD ran cold. We're eating. His voice cracked slightly, but she didn't notice. Well, yes. It's a tasting spot commercial, so you'll be filmed trying his signature dishes, then reacting. Something heartfelt. Natural. Or performed, doesn't matter, we'll get the angles right. The public loves seeing you in more earthy roles. She laughed like it was a compliment. Izuku couldn't breathe. Food. I have to eat. On camera. His thoughts spiraled. How many takes will they do? Will I be expected to swallow everything? Can I hide a napkin in my sleeve? What if I throw up right after the first cut? What if he notices? What if he doesn't? What if I insult his cooking just by being me? He looked at the apple core still on the side tray. That was all he had this morning. 1 apple. His stomach had twisted in knots for hours. He hadn't even digested it properly. I don't think I can, she cut him off cheerfully. You'll be great, Midoriya. This chef is picky as hell about who represents his brand, and guess what? He chose you. Can you believe that? Out of all the idols, all the actors, he said your name first. Izuku blinked, stunned. He chose me. She nodded. Apparently, he saw one of your earlier videos you singing in that soft cafe concept shoot. Said you looked human enough to make the food matter. Whatever that means. He's weird. Izuku went silent. His chest was a war zone of panic and confusion. Why would a culinary genius, someone who clearly valued food, choose him, of all people, to represent his creations? Didn't he know? Didn't he see the hollowness in his cheeks, the tremble in his hands? Didn't he know that Izuku Midoriya hadn't truly eaten a full meal in years? His manager clapped her hands and stood. All right, meeting's done. We'll send you the details. You're filming at Umi to High next Thursday at noon. Don't be late. The chef's very strict. As the door closed behind her, Izuku stayed still. The clock ticked. A chill crept down his spine. Umi to High. Sea and fire. Elegant. Sharp. Like the man who ran it. Izuku leaned forward and covered his mouth with his hand, pressing his palm against his lips until the tremor stopped. I'm so he whispered. The soft hiss of the last burner going off echoed through the pristine kitchen. Bakugo Katsuki stood alone in the sleek, open-concept space of Umi to High. The final guest had left an hour ago, his staff had already clocked out, and the dim lighting turned the glossy marble and matte black counters into a quiet stage of their own. He moved with muscle memory, cleaning, storing, locking up. But tonight, like the past few nights, he made something extra. A small bento box of glazed soba, tamago, rice, and miso-soaked vegetables. No fancy plating. Just nourishment. Just respect for food. For hunger. He packed it into a canvas bag and slung it over his shoulder. Then he left through the side entrance. It was in an alley that wasn't on any scenic route. No tourist appeal. Just worn-out bricks, flickering signs, and the smell of the real city breathing through its cracks. Katsuki came here anyway. Ever since that night. The night he saw him, the stranger in the hoodie, crying while singing lullabies to a bunch of street kids who curled against him like he was home. That voice. That look on his face. Like he was breaking while holding the world together in his arms. Katsuki couldn't stop thinking about it. So every night after work, he took the long way. Just in case. And every night, he brought food. Not leftovers, never that. Always made with intention. Tonight was no different. He turned into the alley and spotted them. 5 kids, laughing around a pile of crates, turning them into a spaceship or a concert stage depending on their mood. They noticed him instantly, like he'd become one of them now. Food guy, one of them yelled. Shut up, Kenji, the girl said, hitting him with a slipper. Say thank you first. Katsuki dropped into a crouch, passing the bag over. It's warm. Eat before it cools. Thank you, mister, they chorused, grabbing the boxes with delighted squeals. He watched them dig in for a moment, then leaned back against the wall, arms crossed. Hey, he asked, trying to sound casual, though his voice still came off gruff. That guy from before. The one who gave you food and sang you seen him again. The kid slowed. Chewed. The smallest one looked up and shook his head. Nope. Not once. Katsuki pressed. They all shook their heads, too busy munching to think much of it. Are you sure? Hooded guy. Pretty voice. Real gentle. His voice dipped lower, almost hopeful. He looked like he needed someone to check on him. The same girl from before paused mid-bite and sighed like she was used to this. "Mister," she said bluntly, wiping her mouth with the back of her hand, "are you bribing us with food or something?" Katsuki blinked. "What? We already told you," she pointed her chopsticks for emphasis, "we don't know him. He never said his name. He didn't even tell us what he did. We wish he came back. We want to hear him sing again." But, her voice quieted. "But no one came." The others nodded, almost sadly, as if they'd been waiting without knowing they were. Katsuki stared at them, a dull ache blooming in his chest. He wanted to say something, maybe ask more, maybe stop asking. But instead, he just reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small, neatly folded napkin. He handed it to the girl. "If he shows up, give him this." "What is it?" "Just something." The girl took it and nodded solemnly. The kids went back to eating. Katsuki didn't stay long after that. But as he walked away, he couldn't stop thinking, "Where the hell did you go, stranger? Why do I want to see you again so badly?" The soft buzz of fluorescent lights made everything feel sterile, quiet, a waiting room for shame. Izuku stood in the back corner of the drugstore, his hood up, mask on, eyes darting between brightly colored boxes on the shelf. The air smelled faintly of rubbing alcohol, mint, and plastic. Antacids. Digestive enzymes. Motion sickness meds. Probiotics. Herbal pills. He didn't know what half of them did. He clutched a small shopping basket with clammy fingers, 3 boxes already inside, something for bloating, something for cramps, and something that just said, "soothing," in lavender cursive font. He didn't know if they'd help. He just hoped they'd do something. He kept pacing the aisle like he was stalling. The knot in his stomach had been there all day. Not from food, from the idea of food. Eat on camera. Eat. Smile. Swallow. Act like you're not about to throw it up later in the bathroom when no one's watching. He crouched, his eyes scanning the bottom shelves. Then finally, desperately, he walked up to the counter. A young store clerk looked up from her scanning, surprised to see someone in a face mask and sunglasses at nearly 10 p.m. "Hi," Izuku rasped quietly. Is there something I can take, so I don't throw up? Like, something to stop that?" The girl blinked. "You mean anti-nausea medicine?" "Yeah," he said quickly. "I mean not motion sickness. Not like in a car. Like, when you eat, and you feel like, sick. It just, doesn't stay. You know." She gave him a long look. Then carefully said, "If you've been vomiting regularly, you should really go see a doctor. It could be something serious." He flinched. "I don't have time," he said, "too fast. I just, need something. Even temporary." The clerk hesitated, then slowly pointed to the shelves on the left. "You could try ginger tablets. Or mild digestive support. But they won't stop it completely. Nothing over the counter really can, not if it's a chronic thing." He nodded absently and walked over without another word. He grabbed the ginger tablets, some anti-gas chewables, and a random packet of stomach-soothing herbal tea. Then added mints. Because maybe that would help too. At the register, the girl didn't say anything, just rang it up and slipped the receipt into the bag silently. Izuku paid with a tap of his phone. He didn't look at her. The bag sat untouched on his coffee table. He stared at it, curled into himself on the couch, knees drawn up to his chest. The box labeled, "Calm Tummy Complex," stared back at him. His stomach growled. He hadn't eaten dinner. He was too afraid. And yet, in 2 days, he would have to pretend like eating was the most natural thing in the world. Chapter 4, Omi to High. The restaurant was quiet. Closed for the day, lights dimmed to a warm amber glow. The sound of clipboard pages flipping and camera lenses clicking filled the air as the production crew made their way around the space. The meeting was short: logistics for tomorrow's shoot, prop placements, expected plate presentation, lighting angles, and quick cues. Izuku stood behind his manager, nodding silently at all the right places. The soft scent of broth and charred scallions still clung to the air from the lunch rush, making his stomach twist in both hunger and fear. As the others wrapped up, his manager clapped her hands, then turned to him. "Midoriya, stay for a bit. We need to confirm walking space for the entrance shot. Might as well get it out of the way." He nodded wordlessly, hands tightening inside his coat sleeves. In the corner of his vision, he saw Bakugo Katsuki, wiping his hands with a clean towel, heading for the back door. The infamous chef himself, clean white shirt rolled at the sleeves, dark apron still around his waist, expression unreadable. Izuku's body moved before he could think. "Wait," he said, more breath than voice. Bakugo paused. Izuku swallowed. "Why me?" Bakugo raised an eyebrow, turning slowly. Izuku kept going, voice shaky but steady enough to sound calm. "My manager said you saw one of my soft cafe shoots and decided I was human enough to make the food matter. That's kind of vague." "Why me?" There was a beat of silence. Bakugo didn't answer at first. He just looked at Izuku. Really looked. The boy in front of him wasn't shining. He was pale, lips dry, eyes sunken behind practiced mascara. Shoulders hunched despite the expensive coat. Hands trembling slightly at his sides. He looked like he hadn't slept. Or eaten. Or truly existed in his own body for a long time. "You're nervous," Bakugo said bluntly. Izuku flinched. "You've been nervous since the second you stepped into this place. Not just now. Every DMN time." He took a step closer, not aggressive, just grounded. "You want the rephrased version?" Izuku looked up at him, tense. Silent. Bakugo held his gaze. "You looked like someone who needed a proper meal." Izuku's throat tightened. Bakugo shrugged, casual but piercing. "You looked like I could snap you in half if I even touched you. That's not the body of an idol who's working hard. That's the body of someone running on fumes. Starving." It hit like a slap. Izuku's breath caught. He laughed, a bitter, dry sound. "Are you saying I'm weak?" he whispered, voice taut with something deeper. Bakugo blinked. "I said you look hungry. That's the same thing, isn't it?" Izuku shot back, louder now. "You don't know anything about me." "No," Bakugo said, calm but unflinching. "But I know what it looks like when someone's body is trying to survive something their mouth won't say." Izuku's fists clenched at his sides. The room felt smaller. He hated that it made sense. Hated how much those words felt like truth. And he hated more that it came from someone who barely knew his name but somehow saw everything. "I hope you're not getting your hopes up," Izuku muttered, voice sharp now, shielded behind practiced coldness. "Don't be too disappointed tomorrow when I mess up your precious promotion. I might not even like your food." Bakugo didn't flinch. "That'd be a shame," he replied coolly. "But if you don't like it, at least I'll know it wasn't because I cooked it wrong." Izuku froze, breath halting. Bakugo stepped away finally, wiping his hands again on the towel. "See you tomorrow, Midoriya." Then he disappeared into the kitchen shadows, leaving Izuku staring after him, chest tight, skin burning, and shame curling inside his stomach like hunger that never leaves. The sky above Tokyo had dimmed into a hazy mix of purple and steel. Neon lights flickered against puddles from an earlier rain, and the city hummed around Izuku as he walked, hood up, hands buried deep in his jacket pockets. He didn't have a destination. He had told himself he'd walk to clear his mind, to breathe, to stop thinking about what tomorrow might bring: the filming, the food, him. But his feet, like they had a memory of their own, began guiding him through alleys and side streets until the noise of the city faded, replaced by the softer chaos of something real. Trash bins. Rusted fences. Torn tarps over makeshift corners. Then laughter. Voices. Small and bright. He turned the corner and stopped. There they were. The 5 kids he hadn't been able to forget. Sitting together under a weak street lamp, backs pressed to a graffiti-covered wall. Each one holding a small takeout box neatly packed, warm if the steam rising into the cool air said anything. He watched as they devoured the food with the wild gratitude only the truly hungry knew. Not desperate. Not greedy. Just thankful. Izuku took a shaky step forward. "Hey," he said, gently. The kids looked up. Eyes widened. One of them, the girl with the sharp tongue and soft eyes, froze mid-chew. The youngest boy let out a high-pitched squeak. Another gasped and pointed. "It's him. The nice guy." Kenji, still holding a half-eaten dumpling, practically shouted, "We've been waiting for you." Izuku laughed, a genuine sound that startled even himself. "You remember me?" "Of course," the girl huffed. "You sang to us, dummy. No one forgets something like that." The others all nodded in agreement, voices layering excitedly. "Your voice is like an angel. You gave us your food. We kept waiting every night just in case you came back." Izuku knelt beside them, ignoring the damp ground, his heart quietly breaking in the softest way. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I got caught up with work. And I didn't really know how to get back here, but I guess I needed to come tonight." The girl gave him a serious look. "You better start visiting again. We thought you were a dream or something." Izuku smiled. "What are your names?" he asked, genuine. "You already know mine," Kenji said proudly, puffing his chest. "But I'll say it again. Kenji. I'm the leader." The others giggled. "I'm Aki," said the girl with the short ponytail. "And I'm the actual leader." "You," said the small boy beside her. "I can read a little. I'm learning." "Sora," said the other boy with the tin can hat. "I made the best rice fortress last time." "I'm Hina," the last one said quietly. "Thank you for singing. And for the food. Last time. And now." Izuku's smile wobbled. "Nice to meet you all." Hina held up her chopsticks, like a scepter. "Wanna eat with us? Mr. Food Guy just came by and dropped off all this." Izuku blinked. "Mr. Food Guy?" Kenji nodded. "Yeah. This guy who brings us food every night now. Since the night you gave us food. It's crazy. Like, we got adopted by angels or something. He always says, 'Eat properly,' and scolds us if we forget to thank the food," Hina said, rolling her eyes but smiling. "He's scary nice," you added. Izuku chuckled, even as his heart warmed oddly. "That sounds like a good person." "He's awesome," Aki whispered. "He even asked about you. Every night." Izuku froze. "Me?" Kenji nodded. "Yup. Said you gave us food and sang. Said he saw you. Then he started coming. And even if we don't eat the whole day, we can survive, 'cause of the food he brings. It's really good food too." Sora offered him a dumpling from his box. "Want some?" Izuku started to shake his head, then stopped. He looked at their faces. Hopeful. Honest. Joyful. He didn't want to disappoint them. He reached out, took the dumpling, and took a bite. It was warm. Perfectly seasoned. Something about it made his eyes sting. It was the best thing he'd tasted in months. The kids all hooped. "He likes it. Eat more. You can have some of mine too." Izuku ended up sharing from every box, letting them feed him little bites. He smiled through it all, really smiled. And for the first time in so long, his stomach didn't clench in warning. His throat didn't burn. No urge to vomit. No sharp pain. Just warmth. He didn't know if it was the food, or the kids, or both. Maybe he didn't need to understand it yet. Then his phone rang. The shrill tone cut through the laughter. He looked at the screen. Manager-san, his breath hitched. He stood quickly, wiping his mouth. Hello. Where are you? His manager snapped. You're not in your apartment. We have a call sheet update to go over. I just stepped out, Izuku lied. I'm heading back now. I'll check in 10 minutes. You better. Don't screw this up. The line ended. Izuku turned to the kids, already halfway backing away. I have to go. I'm so sorry, wait. Hina cried, and Aki jumped up, moving something into his hand. It was a folded napkin, crisp, though slightly creased from care. Izuku blinked. What's this? Dunno, Aki said. The food guy left it for you. Said if you came back, we should give it to you. We kept it clean. Sora yelled. 4 days. Take care of it. Kenji added. And come back, okay. Izuku didn't get to answer. His legs were already running. The phone still buzzed in his pocket. The night spun around him. But his fingers clutched the napkin tightly. As if it were a thread tying him back to the only place that felt real. The only place he didn't feel like a product. The air smelled of seared butter, fresh miso, smoked yuzu peels, and something warm, almost nostalgic. Izuku stood at the edge of the private dining area, already dressed in the stylist's chosen outfit, a cream knit sweater over a tucked-in linen shirt, soft earth tones that framed his pale skin and wiry frame like a delicate sketch. The set was simple, clean oak tables, softly diffused lighting, fresh-cut flowers to add a touch of seasonal life. The plates were already being placed. Izuku didn't need to get close to feel overwhelmed. He could smell everything from meters away. And that was the problem. Miso glazed duck with black garlic butter. A steamed egg custard infused with shiso. White rice cooked in dashi and sake. Seared scallop over red pepper coulis. All plated with elegance. Balanced. NTMT. Art. His mouth was already salivating. His stomach already tightening. He'll know I can't eat this. He'll know. I'll ruin everything. His eyes flicked to the kitchen entrance. And there he was. Bakugo Katsuki. Dressed in a simple black chef's jacket, sleeves pushed to his forearms, hair tied back slightly, his jaw set with quiet command as he finished speaking to the food director. There was a controlled fire to him, not explosive, but simmering just beneath the surface. Izuku tried to breathe. Their eyes met briefly. But Izuku looked away too fast. He couldn't hold that gaze. Not today. Not when he was minutes from pretending he could eat like a person again. 5 minutes, the director called out. The team scattered to their places. Izuku's manager clapped him gently on the shoulder. Remember, it's just 1 bite per dish. Look moved. Say something soft. We'll do voiceovers later if we need to. Izuku nodded. His ears were ringing. He turned quickly and walked out of the set, not too fast to be suspicious, but with purpose. He ran and looked for his bag, which sat in the corner. He dove into it with trembling hands, rustling past his water bottle, notebook, a spare hoodie. Where is it? There. The white paper bag with faded blue pharmacy print. He tore it open and pulled out the ginger tablets and the Komtumi capsules he'd bought days ago. He held them like they were lifelines. He still didn't know if they did anything. The night with the kids might have been pure coincidence, or maybe the comfort of shared laughter had stilled something inside him that no medicine ever could. But he couldn't take chances today. He popped 2 pills and took a swig from his water bottle. Then he stared at himself in the mirror. His skin was too pale. His lips dry. His collarbone pressed against the fabric like wire. He gave a soft, bitter chuckle. "This is it," he whispered. Angel-voiced idol tries not to vomit on Tokyo's most famous chef's food. He pressed a hand against his chest. Felt his heartbeat fluttering like wings trapped in a jar. "All is well," he whispered again. "All is well." And stepped out. Places. Quiet on set. Izuku walked into the dining space with carefully measured steps. The crew had transformed it into a soft-lit stage. Cameras surrounded him, capturing every move. A warm overhead light haloed the table, the plates shimmering like sacred offerings. Bakugo wasn't in sight yet. This part was just his solo reaction shot. Izuku sat down, hands lightly trembling in his lap. "You've done harder things," he told himself. "But you've never had to eat in front of them. Never had to swallow shame while they filmed it." The director's voice came through. "All right, Midoriya-san. We'll start with the duck. First take. Take your time. Bite, breathe, give us a natural expression. We'll go again if we need to." Izuku nodded. The crew stepped back. The clapboard snapped. Omi to High, Spring Feature Commercial. Scene 3A. Take, camera, rolling. Sound, ready. Set, silent. The plate was in front of him now. He picked up the utensils, hands dainty, practiced. Cut slowly. He lifted a bite to his mouth. His throat tightened. But he remembered the kids. Their smiling faces. Their warm food. The napkin pressed into his hand. He took the bite. Chewed. Salt. Smoke. Citrus. Balance. It was incredible. He didn't act. He didn't need to. A soft breath escaped his lips, almost trembling. "This tastes like something you didn't know you were missing." A hush fell around the room. No one told him to cut. Chapter 5, Private Line. Bakugo stood by the open kitchen pass-through, arms folded, half his face shadowed by the overhead light. He wasn't supposed to be here. The director had insisted he didn't need to be on set during the taste portion. "We want the food to speak for itself first, Chef Bakugo." Typical PR fluff. So, Katsuki stayed behind the line, letting the cameras and lights do their thing. But he still watched. A monitor had been pulled near the kitchen for reference. The angle was perfect, framing Izuku from the front, seated alone at the table with his faintly trembling hands resting just beside the polished plate. Bakugo's brow twitched. From the moment this green-eyed idol had stepped into his restaurant a day ago, something didn't sit right. Not the usual arrogance of fame. Not the overeagerness to please either. It was more subtle. Quieter. How he'd flinched at the scent of seared scallop. How he avoided looking too long at the broth simmering nearby. The way his throat visibly tensed when the menu was discussed. People who loved food didn't move like that. And Bakugo could read people. Not their words. Their reactions. Their hesitations. The truths they tried to hide between bites. But now, watching him on screen. Katsuki leaned forward slightly. Izuku lifted the bite of duck to his mouth like it was precious. Like it might hurt him. Or save him. He chewed slowly. Swallowed like it took courage. And then that smile. Small. Honest. Aching. His eyes shimmered as if tears were threatening to form, and not from sadness. Bakugo's breath caught. SHT. There was nothing rehearsed in that face. That wasn't an idol hitting his mark. That was a man who'd forgotten there were cameras, too busy tasting something he didn't expect to matter. Izuku whispered, "This tastes like something you didn't know you were missing." And Katsuki felt that. Felt it down to the marrow of his bones. He let out a low exhale, running his tongue along his molars as the corner of his mouth pulled into a smirk. TCH. So much for disappointing me. He stepped out from the kitchen shadows, moving toward the edge of the set where the scene had just wrapped. No one noticed him immediately, too focused on playback or clearing props. Izuku was sitting quietly at the table, chewing the last bit of rice that had been plated for him. He didn't see Katsuki until he spoke. You said yesterday not to get my hopes up. Izuku blinked up, startled. Katsuki's smirk deepened. Not cruel. Not smug. Just, teasing. But I don't see disappointment right now. He leaned a little closer, lowering his voice. Looks like I made you crave more. Izuku flushed, lips parting slightly, but no words came. His hand instinctively moved toward the napkin on his lap, then hesitated. He looked like he was about to reply when someone interrupted. Izuku. His manager. She hurried over, holding a small water bottle and a pack of capsules. Your pills. You almost forgot. Izuku blinked. Ah, right. He took them quickly, as if the moment with Bakugo had never existed. He downed the pills and practiced silence, barely flinching as they slid down. Bakugo's smirk faded. His gaze sharpened not at the manager, but at the act itself. Pills. After just a few bites. Why? What kind of pills? Something about it didn't sit right. Katsuki didn't speak as Izuku handed the bottle back to his manager and mumbled a quiet thank you. Then Izuku turned and met his eyes again. No smile. No cheeky comeback. Just a tired look, like he'd remembered something too heavy to say out loud. Bakugo furrowed his brows. He wanted to ask, was that necessary? Why now? After just a few bites. But the crew called out again. Another setup. Their moment, whatever it was over for now. But Bakugo didn't walk away. He just watched Izuku get ushered back into position, his soft glow dimmed by anxiety again. And for the first time in a long time, Katsuki wasn't thinking about his plating. He was thinking about why the hell this shining idol had to medicate himself just to eat his food. The cheers outside had finally died down. The crowd's voices, once deafening through the walls, faded like the tide pulling away from shore. Izuku sat on the small couch inside his dressing room, still in his stage clothes. His eyeliner was smudged at the corners, sweat clinging to his neck despite the cold air. He had just finished another round of performances, another full day of appearances, interviews, and fan greetings. His cheeks still ached from smiling. His body. A different story. Strained. Hollow. Empty. He glanced at the small table where a clear plastic container sat. Salad. Again. No dressing. A few cherry tomatoes. It was his only meal for today. Again. His stomach clenched not from hunger, but from dread. He stared at it. Then closed the lid. He couldn't. He shouldn't. But he wanted to eat. Not rabbit food. Not the diet his manager swore by. Real food. His fingers moved without thought, reaching into the side pocket of his bag. He pulled out the small calling card he'd asked for weeks ago, after the commercial filming had wrapped at Umi to High. He'd told his manager it was for promotion records, but deep down, he just wanted to know if the chef who saw through him, who made food he could eat without flinching, was real. He looked at the card. Ran his thumb over the crisp gold lettering. Umi to High Chef Katsuki Bakugo private line, for inquiries orders. He hesitated. Then tapped the number into his phone. Calling, his thumb hovered over the cancel button. His heartbeat sped up. Stupid. This is stupid. He doesn't remember you. It was a commercial. Nothing more. Click. The line picked up. Yeah. The voice on the other end was gruff, slightly husky. Bakugo's voice, for sure. Tired, maybe. Natural. Izuku froze. The hallway outside buzzed faintly with crew members walking by, muffled conversations and distant doors closing. But all he could hear was the low hum of the phone against his ear. He opened his mouth then closed it. "Hello?" Bakugo asked again, a bit sharper now. Still, Izuku said nothing. "TCH. I swear, if this is a prank, I want to order food." The words spilled out soft, clipped. Not rehearsed. There was silence on the other end. Bakugo didn't respond right away. Izuku pressed on. "I want you to cook for me. Just, a meal. A real one." A pause. A long one. Then, like a click in the dark, Midoriya Izuku. His full name. Spoken not like a fan, not like a reporter. Just spoken. Izuku's eyes widened, panic rushing in. He knows it's me. How? Did his name flash on the caller ID? Did his voice give him away? Izuku's heart raced. Heat crept up his neck. He wasn't ready. He wasn't supposed to be found. He slammed his thumb onto the end call button. Silence. His screen dimmed, call history now showing Bakugo Katsuki, 00, less than a minute. And it already felt like he'd done something wrong. Izuku dropped the phone onto the couch and leaned forward, burying his face into his hands. Why did it feel like he just asked for something he wasn't allowed to want? Why did it scare him, that Bakugo remembered him? And even scarier. Why did that one moment of being recognized feel like relief? The day had been long. Endless poses for a skincare brand. Then a quick change into another outfit for a department store photo shoot. At some point, someone handed Izuku an energy drink and said, "This should last you until the fan call at," he didn't even remember tasting it. By the time he returned to his private waiting room, his shoulders were aching, his jaw tense from holding back yawns and hunger. Then he saw it. A brown insulated DLVRY bag, sleek, minimal, too elegant to be just another courier drop-off. No stickers, no receipt, no flashy branding. Just a sealed paper envelope resting on top. His heart stalled. He reached for the envelope first, fingers slow, uncertain. His name was written on the front in black ink. Neat, all caps. Midoriya. He opened it. Inside was a single folded sheet of thick white paper, the kind high-end restaurants used for handwritten menus. But this wasn't a menu. It was a note. "You hung up on me. Still, I cooked. DLVRY address was pinned to your last shoot post. Dumb move. Anyone could have found you. Fix that. Next time, give me your actual address so I don't have to guess where to drop this off. Eat while it's hot. And if I call, answer." Bakugo. Izuku blinked. Once. Twice. Then he smiled. A real one. Tiny. Fragile. But real. His hand hovered over the clasp of the DLVRY bag, then finally opened it. Inside, a small serving of soy butter grilled fish, packed with warm vegetables that smelled of home. A lidded bowl of soft tamago porridge, gentle and perfectly balanced. A side of lightly pickled plum and daikon. And just one mochi ball in a wax paper pouch with, "For dessert, not bribery," scribbled across the corner. His eyes burned instantly. He didn't understand it. The food wasn't flashy. It wasn't for cameras or commercials. It wasn't even portioned like the strict meals his manager demanded. It was made for him. Only him. Izuku sat down, opened the bowl, and let the scent hit him. His stomach didn't twist this time. His throat didn't close. And as he lifted the spoon to his mouth, he whispered, "You really remembered me." The food tasted warm. Savory. Thoughtful. Every bite said what Bakugo never needed to: I saw you. I still see you. And Izuku already knew he would answer the phone next time. Chapter 6. One meal at a time. The sun had just started to dip past the rooftops, casting long golden shadows across the alley where the kids often gathered. It had rained the night before, but the ground was dry now, and a thin breeze carried the scent of grilled meat from some far-off food stall. Bakugo Katsuki walked into the alley with a paper bag in one hand, his keys in the other. The moment the kids saw him, they exploded into shouts. Food guy. You came back. Mr. Food Boss. Did you bring the dumplings again? He let out a low scoff, stepping forward with the smallest of smirks. Brats, calm the hell down. You'll scare the food off. Kenji took the bag immediately like he'd been appointed food captain by divine law. Aki and you hovered close, their eyes wide and bright. Hina, as always, stayed a little behind the others but offered a shy wave. Sora was already sniffing the air. Bakugo sat down beside a stack of worn crates and watched as they dug into the food. Rice ball. Chicken skewers. Little veggie cakes packed neatly in paper wrappers. He didn't say much. He never needed to. Their chatter filled the space without asking. But then Aki suddenly spoke up, liking a bit of sauce from his thumb. Hey, guess what? What? Bakugo asked casually, sipping from a canned coffee he'd bought on the way. The nice guy came back. Aki announced, bouncing on her heels. Bakugo paused mid-sip. His eyes flicked to her. The what now? The guy who gave us food before you started coming around, you clarified. You always ask about him, right? Bakugo's brows lifted faintly. He was here. Kenji nodded, mouth full. Yeah. We finally gave him the napkin you told us to give him. The one you wrote on. He looked really happy. Said sorry for being gone so long. Bakugo's heart gave the tiniest skip, like a hitch in the rhythm. And, he asked. The kids looked at each other. Aki tilted her head. And, what? His name. Bakugo set down his coffee can. Did you get it? Silence. A pause. Then 5 horrified expressions. Kenji slapped his forehead. DMN it. We forgot to ask. Again. Bakugo groaned, slumping slightly. That was the whole point, but, you interrupted, eyes wide with sudden inspiration. If we do get it next time, will you get us more ice cream? Bakugo stared at him. Then leaned back, rubbing the bridge of his nose. Pfft. I'll do you one better. The kids froze. If you get his name, he said, eyes narrowing in challenge, I'll get you a whole cake. A cake, they all screamed together. Like, one of those big round ones with whipped cream and strawberries. Sora gasped. Whatever you want, Bakugo shrugged, feigning indifference. You just better deliver. We swear, we'll get it next time. Hina said, fist raised like she'd just declared war. Cake 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 cake, Sora chanted, spinning in a circle. You better not forget again, Bakugo muttered, but the slight curve of his lips betrayed him. They followed him like ducklings, each kid choosing their ice cream from the store freezer while Bakugo leaned on the counter, sipping another black coffee. He watched them through the reflection in the store's front glass laughing, sticky-fingered, alive. He didn't know why he kept coming back. Maybe it was the way their joy filled the gaps he didn't realize were forming in his chest. Maybe it was because they reminded him what it looked like to eat without fear. Or maybe, deep down, it was still him. The man with sad eyes and a too-thin frame who smiled like the food had given him something he'd lost a long time ago. The man who hung up on him. The man who somehow haunted both his cooking and his thoughts. Bakugo took another sip of coffee and stared down the street. You better come back soon, nice guy, he muttered under his breath. I'm not gonna bake a whole DMN cake just for these kids. The city outside his window glowed soft orange. Neon signs buzzed. Cars hissed by on wet pavement. But in his quiet little apartment, it felt like everything had slowed down. Izuku sat on his futon, the brown DLVRY bag folded neatly beside him, the empty food containers already washed and set aside on the sink rack like they were too important to just throw away. He held the note again. Eat while it's hot. And if I call, answer. He hadn't answered that night. But he was ready now. His fingers hovered over the call button. His heart thumped once, twice. Just say thank you, he told himself. That's all this is. Thank him. That's it. He pressed call. Ring ring click. Bakugo. Still as blunt as before. Izuku swallowed. Hi. It's me. A pause. Then Bakugo's voice shifted slightly, recognition warming the edges. Well. The idol speaks. Izuku let out a nervous breath, then laughed awkwardly. Sorry. I panicked last time. I didn't expect you to recognize me. TCH. Not like you changed your voice or anything. Not hard to tell. Another silence settled. Izuku stared at the dark ceiling above him. I wanted to thank you. For the food. And the note. I actually didn't eat anything else that day. So, that really helped. Bakugo's voice was quieter when he replied, like he didn't want to scare the moment off. You always this bad at feeding yourself? Izuku tried to laugh, but it came out hollow. Only on days that end with AY. Bakugo gave a dry snort. That's supposed to be humor. I'm trying. Izuku rubbed the back of his neck. I guess what I'm saying is. I don't really know what it is about your food. I've only eaten 3 meals from you, but, he hesitated. It was too soon to say everything. Too soon to explain why those meals mattered. That before Bakugo, everything else just came back up. That his body was a war zone of shame and hunger. That he didn't know how to fix it. So he just said, I like it. I really like it. I feel like I can breathe when I eat it. And I was wondering, he trailed off. Bakugo didn't interrupt. Izuku forced himself to finish. If you could be my personal cook. He winced as soon as it left his mouth. I know how that sounds. You're a big shot chef. You're busy. You run an elite restaurant, and I'm just this idol who asks for food at random times. Probably sounds like a spoiled fan asking for special treatment. No, Bakugo said, flatly. Izuku blinked. No, he echoed, heart sinking. No, Bakugo said again, this time more slowly. It doesn't sound like that. There was a beat of silence, and then Bakugo added, dry as ever, sounds like I've hypnotized an idol with my cooking. Maybe I should enter an underground culinary ring next time. Cook-offs to the death. Izuku stared at his phone. Then a real laugh escaped him. Small, incredulous. You joke. Not really. Might win, Bakugo muttered, and Izuku could hear the smirk. This man has humor, Izuku whispered like he was shocked. And he's full of himself. I heard that. Izuku chuckled softly, leaning back against his wall. He felt warm. He felt full. Not just from food. Not just from laughter. From being seen. Heard. Noticed. He sighed gently. I'm not really good at asking for help. I can tell. But, would it really be okay if I ask you to cook for me? Not like a full-time thing. Just whenever I can't, when I can't eat anything else. A pause. Then Bakugo's voice came, quiet, steady, sure, you ask, I'll cook. And just like that, Izuku's eyes stung. He didn't cry. Not yet. But the feeling curled in his chest, something like relief. Something like hope. Okay, Izuku whispered. Then. I'll call you next time. Not just hang up. DMN right you won't, Bakugo grunted. Don't make me chase your address down again. Izuku smiled. Noted. And somewhere beneath the exhaustion and broken pieces he carried something in him began to stitch itself back together. One meal at a time. Chapter 7, The Sixth Slice. The city was asleep, or pretending to be. The only signs of life were the late-night taxis drifting by and the soft hum of the 24-hour convenience store refrigerators. Izuku's shoes scraped the sidewalk as he walked hood up, mask on, sunglasses tucked into his pocket. It is already 3 in the morning. His suitcase was still in his apartment, untouched. His phone showed 5 missed messages from his manager, reminding him about the meeting in 5 hours. The biggest concert jam of the quarter, starring not just him but his closest friends in the industry, Mina, Kirishima, Jairu, and Uraraka with stellar beat. He should have been asleep. He wasn't. He was starving. His stomach had been patient on the flight, tight and sour with motion sickness and nerves, but now it was clenching like it remembered Katsuki's food. Not the plastic fruit cup from his business class seat. Not the hard crackers in his manager's hotel-approved diet plan. But real food. Food with weight. With care. With steam rising from soft textures. He passed 3 convenience stores but didn't stop. Something pulled him forward. Before he even realized it, his steps brought him in front of a quiet building tucked between a florist and a gallery, Omi to high. The same elegant black and silver lettering. The same gentle wooden door. He stood still under the street lamp, the city hushed behind him. His breath fogged faintly in the early morning air. DMN, he whispered, rubbing his thumb over the side of his phone. I want to eat steamed egg custard with shiso again. The memory hurt that first meal during the commercial shoot, when his body didn't flinch or resist. The soft, silken texture that soothed something in him he didn't even know needed healing. He bit his lip. Looked down at his feet. He wasn't even sure why he walked here. You're being weird again, Izuku. It's been 2 months. You didn't even message him. You're a DMN coward. Clank. A soft sound cut his spiral metal on pavement. From the narrow alley beside the restaurant, a side door creaked open. The backlight spilled out, painting gold across the street. A figure stepped out holding a black trash bag in one hand, apron loose around his waist, hair tied back under a bandana. Izuku froze. Katsuki. He looked like he'd just finished prep or cleaning, sleeves rolled up, arms lightly dusted in flour. There were faint shadows under his eyes, but they sharpened instantly when they landed on the familiar silhouette standing outside. Katsuki blinked. Then said, voice rough and flat, Midoriya Izuku. Izuku jolted slightly. Kaken, he whispered. Katsuki's brow twitched at the name, but he didn't comment. He glanced down at his watch. Then back up. One look was enough. He could tell. Izuku's guilt was written all over his face. Unspoken apologies under his eyes. 2 months' worth of exhaustion in his posture. And right there, just behind the mask, that aching, familiar hunger. Katsuki let out a short breath and jerked his chin toward the door. You want to come inside? Izuku's voice cracked before it fully formed. I am sorry, he said quickly, biting his lower lip as he took a step closer. I didn't mean to come unannounced. I know it's been months and it's weird and stupid and I couldn't sleep. I didn't know I'd end up here. Katsuki dumped the trash bag in the bin without looking away from him. Didn't ask for a speech. Izuku blinked. Katsuki tugged the back door open and held it. You hungry? Izuku hesitated for a heartbeat. Then nodded. Just once. But enough. Katsuki turned and walked inside. Then come in. I'll make the DMN egg custard. The lights were dimmer than usual. The restaurant was asleep like the rest of the world, but Katsuki moved through the kitchen with the ease of muscle memory. A kettle clicked on. Bowls were arranged. Stock reheated. Izuku sat on the little bench near the end of the prep table, fingers curled around a warm cup of barley tea Katsuki had handed him without a word. The steam eased his chest. The scent of dashi and shiso made his throat feel tight for reasons he couldn't name. Katsuki cracked eggs with one hand. "You look like SHT, he said casually. Izuku smiled faintly behind his cup. "That's fair." "And what? You forget how to use a phone." Izuku winced. "I wanted to. I just didn't know how to ask." Katsuki didn't stop stirring the egg mixture. "Asking's the easy part. Showing up at 4 a.m. in a mask like a stalker. That's weird." Izuku laughed softly. "You're right." Another pause. "Then, but I'm glad you're here," Katsuki muttered. Izuku blinked. The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It was warm. And when Katsuki gently set the small ceramic cup of steamed egg custard with shiso in front of him, Izuku nearly teared up before the spoon touched his lips. It tasted exactly like that first time. Maybe better. Because now he knew what he was missing. And who he wanted it from. The egg custard was still warm, steam curling up from the shallow ceramic bowl. Izuku sat with the spoon between his fingers, posture curled like he hadn't truly rested in days. But there was peace in the way he moved, even if he didn't know it, shoulders slowly dropping, lips pressing together in a thoughtful hum, like something buried deep inside was finally breathing again. Katsuki stood at the sink, rinsing out a ladle, but paused halfway. He turned. Watched. Izuku was humming. Absent-minded. Barely audible. But sweet, a melody that pulled at Katsuki's memory like déjà vu. It took a few seconds for Katsuki to place it. That song. One of Izuku's unreleased ballads. Katsuki only knew it because the kids sang it in the alley once, claiming it was the angel song the nice guy hummed to them while they fell asleep. They didn't even know it belonged to the idol they kept dreaming about. Now, hearing it from the source, Katsuki finally understood what they meant. It wasn't just the voice, it was the gentleness behind it. He chuckled under his breath. The sound broke the quiet. Izuku blinked, looked up mid-bite. What? Katsuki shook his head, smirking. Nothing. Izuku tilted his head, suspicious. What? You hum when you eat, Katsuki said bluntly. Izuku's cheeks warmed. I didn't notice, you didn't stop either. Katsuki leaned back against the counter, arms crossed. Guess that's a good review. Izuku ducked his head. Sorry. It tastes safe. Katsuki didn't comment, but he felt that word settle in his chest. Safe. Maybe that's what he wanted to be for him. After a pause, Katsuki pushed off the counter, casually walking toward the small fridge near the prep table. Hey, he said as he opened the door. You eat cake. Izuku blinked, caught off guard. Cake. Yeah. He looked up toward the ceiling, like trying to summon a memory. I don't remember the last time. I don't think I'm even allowed to eat cake. Katsuki's eyes narrowed slightly. Allowed. Izuku flinched. I mean, my manager's strict with sugar. Weight regulation and all that, bullshit, Katsuki muttered, then quickly wiped the expression from his face. Whatever. Not asking for your nutrition log. Izuku tilted his head, smile sheepish. Why? I was thinking of baking one, Katsuki said, grabbing a bottle of cream and setting it on the counter. Wanted to invite someone over and make it fresh. Thought you might want a slice too. Izuku blinked, genuinely surprised. I'd get to eat cake. You'd rate it, Katsuki corrected. Be my taste tester. With some other guests. Izuku's brow furrowed a little. Guests. Katsuki shrugged, turning away just as a small smile tugged at his mouth. You'll see. Just say yes. Izuku studied him for a moment. There was something in Katsuki's tone teasing, yes, but also hopeful. Like he already had someone in mind. Like he already saw Izuku there. And for the first time in a long time, Izuku felt like saying yes to something didn't feel like a burden. All right, he said, quiet but sure. I'll try the cake. Katsuki glanced back and gave a satisfied nod. Good. That would make 6. 1 for each of the kids: Kenji, you, Hina, Sora, Aki, and 1 for him. No need for the kids to report back anymore. He'd already found the nice guy's name. Midoriya Izuku. And this time, he wasn't going to forget it. The sun was just beginning to rise, bleeding soft golden light into the edges of the sky. Izuku walked home with a takeout bag in both hands, his steps unhurried, almost light. It was the first time in years, maybe in his whole career, that he was carrying food just for himself without fear or guilt swallowing his appetite. He didn't even double-check the calories. Didn't hear his manager's voice in the back of his mind. Didn't feel that crushing anxiety that something would go wrong the moment he ate. He was just happy. He held the warmth of the food close to his chest like it was something sacred. Still wearing his hoodie and cap, he walked through his building lobby quietly and took the elevator up. Once inside his apartment, the silence didn't feel heavy for once. It felt peaceful. He sat on the floor, legs crossed, and unpacked the food Katsuki had neatly packed for him before he left: miso grilled rice ball, simmered daikon and carrots, and a small bento of citrus marinated chicken brst over soft rice. No manager. No cameras. No mirrors to judge his face while chewing. Just food. And him. And when he ate, nothing bad happened. No nausea. No dizziness. No cold sweat. No tight knot in his throat. No trembling hands bracing for the worst. Just flavor. Just warmth. Just the way Katsuki cooked, like he knew what Izuku's body could finally handle. When he finished, he leaned back against the couch, eyes wide with quiet wonder. He touched his chest lightly. No ache, his smile grew so soft, so sincere, it almost hurt. He whispered to no one but himself, "Thank you, Kaken." He didn't even realize he'd used the name again. Didn't think twice about it. To him, Katsuki already was that, a name tied to safety and warmth, even if they hadn't grown up together in this universe. It slipped from his lips naturally, like it belonged. He didn't sleep that morning. He just sat, glowing, sipping the barley tea Katsuki had tucked into the bag, already thinking about when he'd get to eat his food again. And an hour later, he showed up to his meeting beaming. Hair a little messy. Voice a little hoarse. But smile radiant. Mina noticed first. "Whoa, you look like someone gave you free cake and a kiss. What's with the sparkles?" Izuku just laughed softly, cheeks pink. "Nothing. Just had a good breakfast." Katsuki moved through the prep space as usual, prepping early for the lunch shift, sharpening his knives with steady hands. But his mind wasn't focused. He kept hearing that voice in his head from earlier. The way Izuku had softly, casually, called him, Kaken. He paused mid-cut, frowning slightly. Who the hell is Kaken? He didn't remember ever telling Midoriya to call him that. Sounded like a nickname. A close one. Too familiar. Too easy on the tongue, like it had history. He stared at the cutting board, brows furrowed. TCH, weird. But his hands kept working. And for some reason, he didn't mind it. Chapter 8, Controlled Substance. The meeting was meant to be routine, a project alignment for the Summer Pulse Concert Jam, a rare collaboration among Japan's top soloists and idol units. But for once, the room wasn't filled with stiff tension or fake smiles. Laughter echoed against the glass walls. I can't believe we're finally doing this again. Mina squealed, practically bouncing in her seat as she nudged Kirishima beside her. 2 years since we've all stood on one stage, Jiraiya said, leaning back with a half-smirk. About time. Uraraka from Stellar Beat stretched her arms above her head, beaming. I heard the stage design is next level. We're doing cross-unit stages too, right? All eyes drifted toward the quietest member of the circle. Izuku. He looked different. Same fluffy curls, same soft voice. But there was something brighter today, his smile a little more real, his posture looser, like something good had finally reached him. He nodded with genuine excitement. I'm looking forward to it. Sharing the stage with you guys again feels like a gift. Kirishima grinned wide. Bro, you look like you had cake for breakfast. What happened to the Izuku who only drinks half a protein shake in the morning? Izuku chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck. Just, woke up happy, I guess. Suspicious, Mina teased. Maybe he fell in love, Jiraiya muttered under her breath. Izuku's ears turned pink. And no. Nothing like that. They laughed, light and warm. But the moment didn't last. Just as they were winding down, a staff member poked into the room. Midoriya-san. Manager Ida is requesting you for your routine. That one word shifted everything. Routine. The others all stiffened. The infamous Midoriya boy check, as the crew jokingly whispered behind backs, but never to Izuku's face. No one dared. They watched Izuku rise quietly, gathering his things like someone preparing for confession. It was clinical. Cold. The same spotless white tiles. The same digital scale. The same set of tablets with formulas and thresholds. Izuku stood silently on the scale in his socks while Manager Ida, arms crossed, scribbled down notes on a clipboard. The room was dead silent, except for the beeping of numbers. Then, you ate breakfast. It wasn't a question. Izuku flinched. Yes. I'm sorry. Without telling me. I didn't think it would affect, you don't think. That's my job. The manager's voice sharpened. What was it this time? Another protein bar. Water. Answer properly. Izuku hesitated. He couldn't say it. He couldn't mention Katsuki's cooking. The warmth of the miso. The softness of the rice. The taste of comfort. He didn't want it tainted by this man's hands. I don't remember, he whispered. Manager Ida clicked his tongue, face unreadable. This isn't acceptable. Our meal schedule is set to milligram calculations. You can't deviate. He reached into his bag and pulled out a familiar bottle. The digestion pills. I've updated your intake window. These will help process it faster. I'm also scheduling a full body scan and blood work before the week ends. We might need a stronger dosage. I'll pair it with 2 extra training blocks next week. Izuku bowed his head. Understood. His hands clenched around his pants. Just an hour ago, he had felt human again. Now, he was back in this machine. Mina gripped the edge of the wall, her nails digging into her palm. What the hell are we listening to? Izuku, Uraraka whispered, voice tight with disbelief. They had snuck away with Jiraiya and Kirishima, hoping to peek in and pull Izuku into their post-meeting lunch. Instead, they heard everything. The pills. The tone. The way Izuku apologized like a child scolded for being alive. I hate this, Kirishima muttered. He looked so happy earlier. We need to do something, Mina hissed. But before they could move, their own managers appeared from down the hall, frowns already on their faces. You 4 back to your prep rooms. Now. But, no one interferes with Manager Aida's work, one said sharply. You know how this industry works. You're the best because he makes the best. Stay in your lane. Jairu didn't move. Neither did the others. But they didn't get a choice. They were pulled away, step by step, while the cold reality of Izuku's world echoed in their ears. Izuku sat on the couch, knees tucked up, hands around a cup of warm water. No smile now. Just a tired shadow of the boy who had once beamed through their meeting. He looked at the small pill bottle in his palm. Then to the still-warm takeout box from earlier, half-eaten and now cold. He didn't want to throw it away. But he also couldn't eat it. Not now. So he folded the box gently, reverently, as if preserving a part of himself. And whispered, as if in a prayer only Katsuki could hear, I'm sorry. I couldn't protect it today. Chapter 9, Threadbare Katsuki stirred the icing slowly, the soft vanilla aroma thick in the air as he adjusted the temperature on his mixer. The base of the cake was already done, light sponge layers cooling on the rack, strawberries washed and prepped for the topping. He should be focused. But his eyes kept drifting to the phone on the prep table. No messages. No orders. No short calls. No awkwardly written, I'm hungry, text. It had been almost 2 weeks since Midoriya Izuku last stepped through his doors or called for food. He only saw glimpses of him now, flashes across the screen during interviews, looking brighter than ever in the spotlight. Smiling with his fellow artists. Talking about summer pulse with practiced ease. And yet, something felt off. That smile was stretched too wide. Those eyes were dimmer up close. Even through a screen, Katsuki could feel it. TCH. He turned back to the cake and added a few touches of citrus to balance the cream. Then wrapped it carefully, setting it in a box with forks and small plates. He always brought something they could all share. The kids would be waiting. But the moment Katsuki arrived, everything in him went cold. The air didn't carry the usual buzz of the kids laughing, play-fighting, or singing. There was no bouncing sound of cans kicked over the pavement or the echo of excited voices greeting him. What he found instead was chaos after the storm. Kenji stood out front, arms bruised, face twisted in anger and shame. Sora had his shirt torn and hands clenched so tightly they trembled. Yu and Hina were curled protectively around Aki, who was barely holding himself together, eyes wide and filled with panic, the collar of her shirt ripped, her neck red with marks. Katsuki dropped the cake box without hesitation and rushed over. What the hell happened? Kenji looked up with wild eyes, jaw clenched. Some men came, 2 of them while we were sleeping. Said Aki looked pretty enough to be sold. We told them to go away but they just laughed. Yu's small hands tightened around Aki's arm, tears running down his face. They kicked Kenji when he tried to fight them. Sora tried to protect us too, but they grabbed him by the neck. Hina screamed so loud they got startled, then we all bit and kicked and ran. Sora's voice was hoarse, filled with fury. We tried to protect Aki, but we're scared they'll come back. Then Aki sobbed. She reached out and gripped Katsuki's hand tightly, the tiny fingers digging in, trembling like a leaf. Bakugo-san, please. Please don't leave us here again. Katsuki froze. Something inside his chest cracked wide open. We fought so hard, Hina cried, pressing her head to his arm. But we can't stay here anymore. Please take us away, please. The cake lay forgotten beside them. Katsuki stood slowly, still holding Aki's hand. He looked around at the stained pavement, the scattered bags, the place where these kids had built a life out of nothing. And now it was shattered. He clenched his jaw, then took off his apron, wrapping it gently around Aki's shoulders like a blanket. All right, he said, voice low but certain. You're coming with me. Kenji sniffed. But where? My place for now, Katsuki answered. You're not staying another DMN minute out here. But won't we be a burden? Sora asked, his tough mask cracking. Katsuki crouched down so he was eye level with them. You're not a burden. You're kids, he said firmly. And it's about time someone protected you right. No hesitation. No second thoughts. He picked up the cake box and tucked it under his arm. Then, without looking back, he walked them toward the street. That night, Katsuki converted the back room of his restaurant into a temporary shelter. Soft futons, towels, clean clothes, and bowls of hot rice and miso soup. Hina and you cried again, this time from relief. Kenji stood watch by the door until he finally felt safe enough to rest. And Aki. She stayed clinging to Katsuki's sleeve the entire time. Katsuki stood outside when the kids already fell asleep inside the room he prepared for them for now. Phone in hand, wind cool against his face. His thumb hovered over a contact he hadn't touched in 13 days. Midoriya Izuku. His jaw clenched. DMN nerd, he muttered. Where the hell are you when I actually need you? He tapped the screen. And let it ring. The Tokyo skyline glittered around him, neon bleeding into the smog of night. Katsuki leaned against the rooftop railing with his phone to his ear, fingers curled tightly around the edge of his jacket. The line clicked after the third ring. Hello. Midoriya Izuku. Even through a single word, Katsuki heard it, the scratchiness, the breathlessness, the strain that sleep deprivation carves into a voice. It wasn't just tired. It was wrung out. I didn't think you'd answer, Katsuki admitted, turning his eyes to the streetlights below. You've been off the grid. Sorry, came the soft reply, apologetic and automatic. It's been, non-stop. Katsuki exhaled through his nose. He hadn't planned what he was going to say, not really. But his chest wouldn't leave him alone since the alley incident. And it wasn't just the kids now. He cleared his throat. Your concert's coming up, right? Ah, yeah. 3 more weeks, Izuku said, almost too quietly. I'm kind of losing track of time. There it was again, that blank laugh. Like Izuku had grown used to disappearing into his schedule. Katsuki's tone softened despite himself. You free tonight? A pause. Then, I made some stuff. Nothing heavy, he added quickly. Figured you'd want a proper meal before you burn yourself out. Izuku sounded caught, not just off guard, but like someone holding their breath underwater. I didn't make anything weird, Katsuki added gruffly. Some grilled tofu, barley rice, and the soup you like. Egg custard too. Another silence. Katsuki listened carefully. He could hear faint music echoing through the line, bass heavy, rhythmic. Then voices. Loud clapping. A whistle. Wait, he straightened. Where are you? Izuku hesitated. I'm still at my dance practice. Katsuki looked at his watch. 10:09 p.m. Still, he said, voice dropping a note. They extended it again, Izuku muttered. Told me they need a clean take before next week's blocking rehearsal. We still have another run after this. Katsuki gripped the rail. What time are you done? Maybe, around 12, that late. They said they'd give me 2 to 3 hours to nap before I go to the gym. What? Morning training starts at 4 now since they added new reps, 4 in the morning. Midoriya, Katsuki said slowly, trying to keep his voice from cracking. When did you last eat? He didn't mean it like an accusation. But when the question hung in the air, the silence that answered it hurt more than he expected. Around lunch, I think, Izuku finally said. A banana and a protein bar. Katsuki's jaw clenched. That was what, 11 hours ago? 12, I guess, Izuku said, trying to laugh again. But it's okay. I'm kind of used to it now, don't. The word came sharp, cutting through his rambling. Izuku froze on the other line. Don't say that like it's something to be proud of. Izuku didn't answer. Katsuki looked at the cooling bento on the table beside him. He hadn't even started packing it yet. He'd made it hoping tonight would be the night Izuku would come by, maybe with that sheepish look, saying something like, "I couldn't resist your soup again." But now he was picturing that same boy in a mirrored room with his ribs showing through sweat-drenched clothes, dancing on empty lungs. Still trying to shine. Still starving. He swallowed hard. "Izuku," he said, his voice steady now, low but empty. "You said you couldn't come tonight, but let me do something. I'll deliver it. It's just food. No pressure." "I can't," Izuku said, breath hitching. "My manager checks everything that comes through. He'll know." Katsuki's knuckles whitened. "All right," he said softly. "Then at least answer me this when you are allowed to eat, what do you want?" Izuku didn't respond at first. Then, so quietly it was nearly a whisper, "Your food." That broke something in Katsuki's chest. "I'll make it," he said. "Anytime. You say when." He paused, then added more quietly than before, "Don't keep going. Like this." Izuku didn't answer, but Katsuki could hear the sniffle. "Midoriya." "Thank you," Izuku said, so fragile that Katsuki nearly hung up and drove there himself. "Even if I can't come tonight, it means a lot that you called." Katsuki didn't say anything else. He just held the phone near his ear long after the line had gone silent. Chapter 10, Cake and Custard. The arena pulsed with anticipation. Fans screamed with joy from outside the gates, lights flashing, banners waving. All the biggest names in the industry were here. And behind the stage, everything was chaos. Makeup artists ran back and forth, sound technicians tested mics, assistants checked lights and visuals. But none of that touched Bakugo Katsuki, who stood just outside the dressing room hallway with a small thermal bag in one hand. He wasn't here as a celebrity or judge tonight. Just a cook. Inside the sleek black bag was a modest home-style meal: warm chawanmushi, egg custard, grilled saba with a delicate glaze, a small bento of rice and steamed vegetables seasoned just right. Nothing too oily, too rich, or too showy. It wasn't for the concert. It was for Midoriya Izuku. He'd gotten word from a friend in the event crew that this would be the first time Izuku would be in one place long enough to be reachable again. Katsuki didn't expect a conversation, or thanks, just a moment where Izuku would get to eat something that didn't feel like punishment. He found a staff member outside the dressing rooms and handed the bag over. "Give this to Midoriya. Tell him, it's from someone who wants him to eat well." The staffer nodded and disappeared through the door. Izuku was getting his mic attached when his manager, Ida, stepped in. "What's that?" he asked sharply, noticing the staffer placing the black thermal bag on the table beside Izuku's schedule sheet. "DLVRY for Midoriya-san," the staff replied politely. "Said it's food." Came from the back in trance. Izuku's eyes snapped to the bag, his heart thudding. Something about it simple but clean, the smell, that warmth, his soul recognized it instantly. Kaken. But before he could even take a step toward it, Ida was already at the table. "Who sent this?" the manager asked, flipping open the note Katsuki had hurriedly scribbled. He didn't even read it, just scanned it like it was a grocery receipt and scoffed. "We've discussed this. No unauthorized food." He turned to Izuku. "It could be tampered with. Fans spike things. You of all people know how dangerous this is." Izuku's voice caught in his throat. "But, no." Without another word, Ida dumped the bag into the trash bin in the corner of the room. Food and all. The clatter was louder than necessary, final and sharp. "Stick to the nutrition chart. Your salad will be delivered before call time. If I find you touching anything else, I'll reschedule your weigh-in and increase your intake suppression." Izuku froze. He watched as his manager left the room, tapping instructions into his tablet. The door clicked shut behind him. And then the dressing room was quiet. Painfully quiet. Izuku stood frozen in place for a long minute, staring at the bin. His throat tightened. He didn't move until the assistant left for the next dressing room. Then, slowly, as if in a trance, he walked to the trash bin. His knees bent. His hands trembled. The black thermal bag was still there, half crushed. The food inside was barely disturbed, still packed tightly in heat-safe containers, some soup having spilled, but the scent was still there. Home. Warmth. Kaken. He reached in. Fingers trembling, he lifted out the custard cup, twisted it open, and took a bite with a disposable spoon still tucked in the bag. And then he broke. The first bite melted into his mouth like the first ray of sunlight after a storm. The same flavor he remembered. Steamed egg infused with shiso. Gentle on the tongue. Soft. Familiar. Comforting. Izuku's lips quivered as tears spilled down his cheeks, falling freely now. No stage smile. No spotlight. Just him and the taste of something that said, "You deserve to be cared for." "I'm sorry," he whispered between bites, choking on tears. "I'm so sorry, Kaken." He ate another bite, then another, crying harder now. His hands shook as he fumbled to open the other box, the grilled saba. Even slightly squashed and cooling, it was still better than anything he'd eaten in weeks. His teeth dug in as if his body didn't want to let go of it again. "It's not fair," he whispered, biting back sobs. "Why does food like this make me feel like I'm worth something?" He hunched beside the bin, holding the cup and bent spoon like sacred things. For the first time in years, he didn't care if anyone walked in. He just wanted to feel full. Not just in his stomach, but in his heart. The streets were quieter now, their glow dimmer as neon lights began to fade and nightlife settled. Izuku stood in front of Omita, hoodie pulled low over his face, scarf tucked to cover his mouth even though it wasn't cold. His hair was damp, sticking lightly to his temples from his rushed bath earlier. He didn't text. Didn't call. He just walked. His manager had offered to have his driver take him home, but Izuku declined, mumbling something about clearing his head. But his feet, like they'd learned the way on their own, led him here. The last few weeks had been exhausting, flashing lights, camera bulbs, pressure behind every movement. He sang, danced, smiled, waved. And through it all, he imagined that bite of egg custard, not the one thrown away, but the one he'd managed to save and eat on the floor, tasting like memory and safety. He didn't know what he was hoping for now. Maybe a chance to say thank you. Maybe just to see Katsuki's face again, even if it meant nothing would come of it. He reached for the door. It opened before he could. And there stood Katsuki Bakugo, arms crossed, drying his hands on a towel. His eyes widened briefly before narrowing just a little, studying Izuku's face beneath the hoodie. "You look like SHT, Katsuki grunted, stepping aside to let him in. Izuku chuckled weakly, walking in with a soft, "Thanks." The scent of warm broth, miso, and faint lemon hit him as he stepped past the threshold, something unclenching in his chest. They said nothing for a moment. Just stood in the quiet kitchen space, surrounded by soft overhead lights and faint clinks from a resting coffee pot. Then Izuku spoke, voice low. "I'm sorry. I didn't finish the food you sent that night." Katsuki looked up, surprised at the sudden apology. "I wanted to," Izuku added. "Really? I was so excited when I saw it. But everything started moving so fast. The concert, preparations, the adrenaline crash after," he trailed off. "I didn't even make it to my tub. I just sat in my dressing room and thought about this place." He didn't mention what happened to the meal. That it was discarded. That he salvaged it from the trash bin and ate it like treasure. He didn't have the strength to say that part aloud. Katsuki didn't ask. He just gave a quiet grunt, drying his hands and tossing the towel into the laundry basket. "Should've just come here first," he muttered. "Food tastes better straight off the stove." Izuku smiled. Then a whisper. A gasp. A voice. "It's the nice guy." Izuku turned toward the entrance. Standing just inside the hallway barefoot, in pajamas too big for them were 5 familiar figures. Kenji, Yu, Sora, Hina, and Aki. Their eyes lit up. Before either man could react, the kids rushed forward, all shouting at once. "You're here again. We missed you. I knew it was you. It's the nice guy from the alley." They collided with Izuku in a mess of arms and grins and laughter. He nearly lost his balance as Kenji hugged his waist, Hina clung to his leg, and Yu held his hand. Izuku's mouth fell open in disbelief. "Wait, how?" He looked at Katsuki. The older man rubbed the back of his neck, looking almost sheepish. "They've been staying here," he explained, "for about a month now. After, something happened. They needed somewhere safe." Izuku looked at the kids, then back at him. "You're the one taking care of them." Kenji grinned. "Not just taking care of us, he's the food guy." Sora chimed in, "The one who gives us rice with egg and that soft fluffy meat." Aki shyly added, "He even gave me soup when I had a stomach ache." Yu giggled. "He's been looking for you too. He told us he thought you were magic, like your voice made him see stars." Hina tugged Izuku's sleeve. "The napkin we gave you. That was from him. He gave it to us to give to you." "Yeah." Kenji jumped in. "And he said if we told him your name, he'd bake us a cake." Izuku blinked at all of them, overwhelmed. Then his eyes turned back to Katsuki, who leaned against the counter with arms crossed and a small smirk tugging at his lips. "So," Izuku whispered, narrowing his eyes. "That night you invited me for cake," Katsuki shrugged. "That was the night I figured it out. You the alley guy and the idol same dork. And the cake. I was gonna surprise them," he said plainly, nodding toward the kids. "Figured I'd make one when you finally stopped running off." Izuku's mouth fell open in mock offense. "I wasn't running off. You didn't answer my calls for 2 weeks." Katsuki raised an eyebrow. Izuku looked away, ears pink. The kids giggled like they were watching a soap opera. "So," Izuku said, breaking the moment. "Is there still cake?" Katsuki tilted his head with a smug grin. "I can bake better than what I made before." The kids erupted in cheers. "Cake again." "Yee-hee." Katsuki waved them off. "Go grab the plates." They all scattered like excited lightning. Izuku watched them for a moment, those once homeless kids now barefoot in a warm restaurant, running like they had a future. Then he turned back to Katsuki. "Thank you," he said. "For everything." Katsuki didn't smile wide. He just nodded. But there was warmth in his eyes. A silent understanding. "You're not the only one who sings in secret," he said. "I just do it with a spatula." Izuku's laugh came out like a sigh, light and free. Chapter 11, Side of the stove. The scent of sponge cake and whipped cream filled the restaurant like a lullaby. Katsuki had pulled together ingredients without much effort. It was muscle memory at this point. He baked fast, muttering under his breath while frosting the top. The kids had set the table with mismatched plates and spoons, pulling chairs together like it was a grand banquet. And Izuku. He sat between Yu and Aki, still wearing his hoodie but with his scarf and mask now tucked into his pocket. His hair was still damp and fluffy, his cheeks flushed not from stage lights this time, but from the joy in the air. "Okay," Sora declared proudly, standing on a chair like a ringmaster. "Tonight's gathering is for 2 important reasons." Kenji threw a hand up. "1, because the food guy finally baked us the cake he promised." Hina clapped excitedly. "And 2, because the nice guy is back. I told you he'd come back." You said, squeezing Izuku's arm. Izuku laughed gently. Of course I did. I said I'd try, right? Aki tilted his head. But we didn't know your name before. That's when Sora blinked, squinting at Izuku. Wait a second, the others turned too, eyes narrowing with cartoonish suspicion. Can you take off your cap? Kenji asked, crawling onto the table. Izuku froze, startled, looking briefly at Katsuki who simply raised an eyebrow and nodded toward the kids with a lazy smirk. You're caught, might as well accept your fate. With a breath, Izuku pulled off his cap, letting his fluffy green curls tumble free. The silence was so heavy for a second, you could hear a spoon drop. Eehee. Kenji jumped. You're Midoriya Izuku. The Midoriya Izuku. The singer. You squealed. The one who sings Sky Promise. You're our favorite idol. Hina shouted. Izuku blushed, waving his hands. That's me, but don't freak out, okay? Aki looked up at him in awe. You sat with us. You gave us food. Even sang, Sora blinked. Midoriya Izuku sat in the alley with us. The realization rippled through the kids like lightning, then exploded in cheers and giggles and awe. You're even cooler now. You're the best nice guy ever. I'm gonna tell everyone I had cake with an idol. Katsuki just chuckled as he sliced generous pieces of cake and passed them around. Alright, save your questions for dessert. The kids settled in quickly, spinning spoons like swords and declaring the frosting a cloud from candy heaven. Sora declared that Katsuki might be a retired ninja who now bakes in disguise, and Kenji insisted that Aki should open a detective agency because he noticed Izuku first. They talked about what if they had a restaurant run by magical kids. What if Izuku and Bakugo were secret agents who sang to gather clues? What if the cake was enchanted and gave you a new dream every time you ate it? Amid their wild chatter, Izuku laughed, free and raw. Every time his eyes met Katsuki's. Across the table, he found himself smiling a little longer and blushing when Katsuki returned it with his rare, crooked grin. It felt real. He didn't worry about the weight of the cake. He didn't check the time. He didn't think about the pills or the scale or the chart his manager kept. He just sat, surrounded by mismatched joy, and felt like himself. And Katsuki noticed. His eyes lingered just a bit too long on the way Izuku closed his eyes to savor the cream, the small hum of happiness he made, the calmness in his shoulders. The difference. It tugged at something in him. Later, after the kids had dozed off in a pile of blankets on the back couch, Katsuki washed the last few dishes while Izuku leaned against the bar, sipping water with a soft expression. You really like cake that much? Katsuki asked, voice low. Izuku smiled against the rim of the glass. I haven't had one in years. Because of your job. Izuku nodded. I guess it's not really allowed. There was a pause. Just the quiet sound of water running and a sponge brushing ceramic. Katsuki broke the silence again. I saw you that day, you know, he said casually. At the shoot. With those ginger tablets. Tummy capsules. I thought, at first, maybe it was just some idle prep thing. Nerves or sensitive stomach. Izuku slowly lowered his glass. But when your manager came over after you took just a few bites of the dish, shoved more pills at you like you were some ticking bomb, Katsuki glanced at him. You looked like you were gonna pass out. Izuku didn't answer immediately. He just stared into his glass, fingers tightening around it slightly. I didn't know what was going on, Katsuki continued. Still don't. But I know this every time you eat here, you look normal. You look like someone who's allowed to eat. Who enjoys it. Izuku's breath caught. Then, softly, that's because, he whispered, this place, your food, it makes me feel normal. He looked up, green eyes glassy, but not quite sad. It's nice, he added. To sit down without fear. To taste something without checking a chart or a label. To smile after eating, not worry if I'll regret it. Katsuki stared at him, his chest tightening. He didn't press. Didn't ask why. Didn't demand explanations. He just nodded once and went back to rinsing the plates. Good. Izuku let out a small breath, somewhere between a sigh and a laugh. In that silence, the flickering kitchen light above them hummed gently. And for once it was enough. The set was bright vibrant yellows and oranges, with travel luggage props stacked behind the couch where the guests sat. Fake train signs blinked above, giving it the feel of a chaotic airport or road trip hub. Izuku sat center, squeezed between Jairu and Kirishima, both of whom were dressed in playful travel gear to match the theme. They'd just finished playing a silly obstacle game involving water balloons and unicycles, and everyone was laughing, breathless and loose from the icebreakers. The audience was roaring. The hosts were cracking jokes. Even the staff in the background were smiling behind their cameras. Izuku leaned forward to sip water, chuckling at how Kirishima had completely wiped out earlier and dragged Jairu down with him. You owe me a new pair of sneakers. Jairu was mock pouting. Hey, it's not my fault the floor betrayed me. Kirishima grinned, offering her a high five. Then one of the MCs called out with dramatic flair, all right. You three have been bonding like siblings, but now it's time to test your personal truths. Segment, Fan Questions, Let's Get Honest. A monitor popped up with pre-submitted fan questions from social media. The first question was directed to Izuku. Midoriya-san. Your skin is glowing and you look so slim lately. Do you follow a special idol diet? Laughter echoed, and the camera zoomed in on Izuku's slightly surprised expression. He blinked once, then chuckled softly, trying to keep it light. Am I really that skinny? He teased, pulling at the hem of his shirt with a mock frown. I feel like I still look the same as I did in junior high. Jairu elbowed him gently, smirking. You look like a protein bar in human form. Compact and shiny. Even Izuku burst out laughing at that. But somewhere beneath the laughter his stomach turned. He caught a glimpse of his manager, just off stage behind the camera, arms folded. Watching. Her eyes calculating, always. They're noticing it, Izuku thought. If fans are noticing, she'll double the workouts again. Or cut my food next week. He swallowed and forced a grin, raising a hand in playful surrender. Well, it's not as exciting as it sounds, he added, smoothly. It's mostly veggies and light proteins. But sometimes, he leaned closer to the mic with mock secrecy, I cry over the salad and pretend it's steak. Laughter erupted again. Even the MC clapped. Relatable. Izuku glanced to the side. His manager gave a nod. Safe answer. Not too much. Good job. Then, another fan question popped up. For Midoriya again, if you were to recommend comfort food that doesn't ruin your diet, what would it be? This time, Izuku didn't rush to answer. He stared at the screen for a beat. His hands curled slightly on his lap. He thought of warm broth. Of steamed egg custard. Of soft meat over rice. Of cake and the sound of kids laughing. Of Katsuki wiping his hands on a towel and saying, should have just come here first. He looked up and smiled, not the practiced camera smile, but something soft and real. Visit Omita High, he said warmly. It's this small restaurant near the old station downtown. It's simple. The food is clean, made with care, and it feels like someone's wrapping your heart in a warm towel. There was a little silence. Even Jairu blinked in surprise at the sincerity in his voice. Izuku glanced sideways, adding with a light laugh, and if you see a grumpy blonde guy in the kitchen, that's the boss. Tell him I sent you, and maybe he'll give you a bigger portion. The crowd awed. Kirishima laughed. Yo, is this your secret stash? I'm going next week. Izuku just shrugged, a bit shy now, hiding behind his water bottle. His ears were pink, and he knew it. He didn't name Katsuki directly. Didn't say what that food meant to him. But just saying the name Omi to Hai felt like a quiet rebellion. Like a whispered thank you to the place that made him feel human. And off stage, his manager didn't move. Her expression unreadable. But Izuku didn't care, for once. Because in that moment he'd given that place the love it gave him. The last plate clinked into the drying rack. The sound echoed like a bell signaling the end of a war. Bakugo leaned against the kitchen counter, sweat clinging to the back of his neck, apron stained with sauces from at least 20 different orders. His shirt was rolled to the elbows, wrists aching, voice hoarse from barking over the roaring hum of full tables and non-stop demand. The open kitchen smelled of broth, spice, steam, and burnout. Outside the kitchen pass window, the dining area looked like a battlefield of wiped tables and toppled chairs. A staff member Kaminari, face flushed and head tilted back, was halfway slumped over the front counter, holding an empty water pitcher like it was a lifeline. "I think I saw God between table 11 and 13, he groaned. Bakugo grunted. If that God was Midoriya Izuku, then yeah. Probably. What even happened today? Kaminari mumbled, not even opening his eyes. Another junior staffer, Ishida, a trainee from their culinary school partners, shuffled into the kitchen and collapsed into a stool. That one group asked for every single dish Izuku ever tried. Every single one. Then the next table copied them. And then it never stopped. Bakugo muttered as he pulled off his apron, DMN nerd and his smooth tongue. It all started when some random customer earlier that morning asked, all starry-eyed, "Are you the boss that Midoriya Izuku mentioned on that variety show last night?" Bakugo had blinked. "What the hell are you talking about?" They showed him the clip right there, on their phone. The screen still had popcorn butter smudges on it. "Visit Umi to Hai," Izuku said with that DMN warm smile. "It's this small restaurant near the old station downtown. The food is clean, made with care. Like someone's wrapping your heart in a warm towel." And suddenly boom. Line out the door by noon. DLVRY orders crashed their app. People ordered dishes just to take selfies with the same food Izuku ate during the promo shoot. They tagged the restaurant in every story. Some asked what seat he usually sat in. Some even left napkins folded like the kids had done before. Bakugo should have been said. But part of him, that arrogant part, rose to the challenge like a match to dry kindling. "Small restaurant," he'd muttered earlier that day, grabbing his knife like it was a sword. "I'll show you how big this is, Izuku. I'll feed your entire fanbase without blinking." And he did. All 700 of them. At 11 p.m., when the final order was served and the chairs stacked, Bakugo stood alone in the kitchen, hands braced on the edge of the sink, body ready to shut down. Even Kaminari looked like he'd rather be in the ER than clock out. Bakugo stretched his neck, groaning. "All right. Let's close it down. Store's off tomorrow morning. We're out of everything anyway." Just as he walked to the front to flip the "open" sign to "closed," a soft voice stopped him in his tracks. "Am I too late to order something?" He turned. There he was. Midoriya Izuku, hood up, mask tucked under his chin, blinking like he wasn't sure he had the right timing. Months had passed since the last time they'd shared a meal in the quiet hours. Their contact since then had only been short messages. "Kaken, I saw a photo of your rice bowl trending. Made me crave it. Did you eat today? Please say yes. Concert soon. I'll stop by after." But nothing had ever come through. Until now. Bakugo blinked. For the first time all day, something like relief cracked through the exhaustion. "Izuku," he said, voice rough. Izuku gave a sheepish smile. "I know you usually close at 11, but I was nearby, and I didn't want to go anywhere else." Bakugo huffed, running a hand through his sweat-damp hair. From the counter, Kaminari sat up slightly. Wait, he's Midoriya Izuku. Bakugo flicked a dish towel at him. Go home, Denki. Kaminari groaned and waved a hand. I'm not even surprised anymore. Good night, boss. Don't burn the place down. As the staff slowly filed out with muttered goodbyes, Izuku stepped inside, lowering his hood. You're the reason I'm practically a 5-star chef now, Katsuki muttered as he made his way toward the kitchen again. I had to cook like hell to keep up today. Izuku laughed gently, eyes soft. I saw the videos online. The place looks really happy. Bakugo glanced over his shoulder. You ordering or just admiring the mess you made? Izuku stepped closer, his voice lower now. I'd love something warm. Not too heavy. Something I can taste slowly. Katsuki paused, turned back around fully and nodded. All right, nerd, he said. Give me 10 minutes. Behind him, Izuku smiled relieved, comforted, and finally, just a little bit full without even having eaten yet. Chapter 12, Starving Light. The restaurant had already been closed for over an hour. The tables were wiped, chairs stacked along the sides, the faint scent of ginger and roasted sesame still clinging to the warm air. The only light came from the small lamp over the corner booth, the one closest to the window. Izuku sat there, alone with Katsuki, cradling a bowl of steamed egg custard and grilled soy-glazed chicken. His eyes fluttered half-closed as he chewed, the exhaustion in his shoulders finally softened by the comfort of a warm meal made just for him. Katsuki leaned against the kitchen archway, arms crossed, watching him silently. Izuku had been eating slowly, savoring, humming sometimes without even realizing, like the way he did that night with the kids. Now, only half the broth remained. Then Izuku spoke, quiet but sincere. I might be gone for a while again. Katsuki looked up. I'll be having more shoots. Overseas, Izuku added. Some studio commercials, 2 interviews, another photo spread. I don't think I'll be able to come here again for some time. There was something painful in how he said it, not apologetic, but grieving. I also wanted to ask, he swallowed, poking gently at the rice grains left on his plate, please don't send food for a while. Katsuki frowned. Why? Izuku glanced up, and his smile was small. Because if I eat good food in the middle of all that junk, it'll make everything worse. I might cry over it. Katsuki didn't laugh. He didn't even smirk. He just looked at him with the kind of stillness he rarely ever showed. You said you were fine the other day. Izuku shrugged faintly. I was lying. He finally set his spoon down. I felt like dying during the last shoot. I couldn't think straight. My stomach felt like it was caving in. They keep giving me more pills, fewer greens, less rice. Even my water's being monitored now. Like if I gain half a kilo, I'll disappear from this world. There was a pause. Katsuki didn't ask questions. He just listened. Izuku smiled bitterly, picking up the last spoonful of broth and drinking it like it was the only warmth left in his life. Then he gently pushed the empty bowl forward and bowed his head low over the table. Thank you, Katsuki. Katsuki blinked. For always cooking for me. Even when I show up out of nowhere. Even when I don't finish everything. I was probably a bother to you. But he looked up again, cheeks flushed from both heat and honesty. I hope I can eat your food more. In the future. For a long time. Katsuki stared at him. The same kid who looked like a walking ghost under stage lights, was smiling now. Tired, but full. Outside, the night was clear. The windows reflected the quiet glow of the moon and a smattering of stars. The same moon Izuku had looked up at so many nights, hungry, aching, alone. Now, he just stared at it with gentle peace. Katsuki turned to look at him again only to find that Izuku had fallen asleep. His head rested on folded arms, face still tilted toward the window. His mouth parted slightly, the faint trace of a smile on his lips, like he had drifted off mid-thought. In sleep, he looked younger, softer. Katsuki didn't dare move. He didn't speak. He just stood there, eyes locked on this rare, unguarded version of the person the world called a star. And in the silence, Katsuki thought to himself, "You shine just like the sky you're looking at. But DMN, I wish time could stop right now. Just let me look at you like this. For a little longer." The doors loomed in front of him like a judgment. Cold glass, pristine walls, and the massive logo of 1 Point Management glinting like it was carved from ice. Midoriya Izuku stood frozen. He clutched the strap of his messenger bag tightly, knuckles pale. His manager's heels clicked against the polished tiles behind him like a ticking clock to a bomb that already went off. A photo printed on glossy paper slapped against his chest before falling to the floor. "There," his manager said, voice tight with restrained fury. "You recognize yourself?" Izuku didn't answer. The picture had gone viral overnight. Fans were gushing about it. "Look how happy Izuku looks. First time seeing him smile while eating. So maybe the rumors about his health aren't true. Who's that guy he's with? OMG, he has non-celeb friends. He looks normal. He looks okay." The photo was candid Izuku sitting across a man inside a quiet restaurant. The warm lighting softened his sharp cheekbones, his hair messier than usual, his chopsticks mid-air as he laughed at something. There was a bowl of rice, grilled fish, soft soup, and steamed vegetables. A normal meal. A happy idol. A photo worth trending. But here in the real world Izuku was trembling. "How dare you eat outside?" his manager snapped. "How dare you go off plan without reporting to me?" He couldn't look her in the eye. His throat felt dry. "You think just because you smiled and took a bite, you fooled everyone. I knew something was off when your weight didn't drop as scheduled. You've been sneaking off. Eating things not on your meal chart. Eating whatever you want." Each word hit him like a slap. He opened his mouth to speak but nothing came out. He wasn't scared of her. Not really. What scared him was what came after her anger. The possibility that what he feared might now be true. He might never go back to Umi to high again. To Katsuki's warm meals. To soft tamago tofu and real soup that didn't taste like punishment. To sitting in that booth with no cameras and no pressure. "I told you not to go anywhere for a while," Izuku finally said, his voice cracking. His manager raised a brow. "What?" "I told him I wouldn't go back for now." She scoffed. "Good. Because now it's not for now. It's forever." Izuku felt his heart snap in two. "You'll be monitored twice as closely from now on," she continued coldly. "Weight, food intake, pills, everything. No room for rebellion. We need you in peak shape for the next season. I don't want any more surprises. And you better wipe that pout off your face before your shoot today." She shoved a paper bag into his hands, the same bland salad. A small water bottle. And his pill packet. "You have 4 interviews. Eat this. Take your capsules. Try to look like you deserve to be top billing." She walked away without a glance back. Izuku stood alone. Then, when no one could see, he started to cry. Tears slipped silently as he clutched the bag to his chest. Even the first 2 bites now made him want to vomit. His stomach ached at the thought of chewing. The taste of his pills already ghosted on his tongue. "Kaken. I wish you made this," he whispered. His voice cracked like glass. "I wish you were the one who cooked for me again. It never hurt when it was you." But now, he wasn't sure he'd ever be allowed to taste Katsuki's food again. And that hurt more than anything his stomach could ever do to him. The dining area was quiet, sunlight filtering through the windows, painting golden streaks over the worn wooden tables. Katsuki stood near the counter, wiping a clean dish he didn't really need to clean. His phone buzzed once on the shelf nearby. He picked it up absently. A notification. Trending, Midoriya Izuku spotted in casual dinner outing. Fans gush over rare candid photo of the idol smiling while eating. Katsuki clicked on the image. There he was. Blurry-faced but unmistakable, the tousled curls, the curve of his shoulders, the dimple peeking from his cheek as he smiled at someone across the table. Katsuki didn't even have to wonder. That was his restaurant. That was his table. That was his food. He should have been used to it by now, Izuku being part of the world in ways he never would be. A star, polished and adored, orbiting far above normal days. But that smile. It was different. Raw. Soft. Real. A smile he hadn't seen on Izuku when he was behind the cameras. He read the comments. I didn't know he could look so normal, so happy. He eats like he actually enjoys it. That makes me feel better. Protect this smile at all costs, Katsuki's chest tightened. People were happy. They believed Izuku was doing okay. But Katsuki hadn't received a single message from him in weeks. Not one text. No photo of a crumpled paper napkin with a vague, craving this soon eyes. No late-night call whispering, I'm starving, but I can't come tonight. Maybe next week. Nothing. The quiet suddenly felt heavier than usual. He turned his gaze toward the hallway that led to the storage room they converted for the kids. Their laughter was faint behind the thin wall. He followed the sound, pulling the door open gently. Kenji was seated on the floor, reading aloud, his fingers carefully following each word. Sora sat beside him, writing them down in a notebook Katsuki bought last week. Yu was giggling as she colored the letters. Aki leaned on a pillow, whispering along like a secret. Hina sat closest to the small desk lamp, sorting flashcards. Katsuki leaned on the doorframe, arms crossed, saying nothing. They were so focused, it took Kenji a moment to notice him. Bakugo-san, he beamed. Sora wrote my name without help. Katsuki smirked. TCH, took you long enough. The kids laughed, used to his gruff affection now. He didn't say it aloud, but seeing them like this healthy, warm, learning made something in his chest ache with pride. He'd registered them into a local learning center with part-time schedules. Even got some teachers to help twice a week. It wasn't much. But it was enough to make them believe they were worth something. Maybe that's why he cared so much. Maybe, they were just like him. And Izuku. All 5 of them. People who looked bright from far away but needed saving more than they let on. He remembered that first night clearly. Izuku, shivering under his hoodie, his face hidden, feeding kids like he was pouring the last pieces of himself into their little hearts. Singing softly until they fell asleep. Voice trembling, but still giving. He looked like he'd fall apart the moment the music stopped. The truth was, Katsuki didn't know who saved who that night. And now. Now he wondered how badly Izuku must be hurting somewhere, behind those flashy interviews and rehearsals. Because the complete silence was the loudest scream Katsuki had ever heard. Chapter 13, Until It Doesn't Hurt. The lights were bright. The cameras hovered overhead. Laughter bounced off the studio walls as the hosts clapped and the wheel spun. Midoriya Izuku-san, you're next. The crowd cheered. Izuku forced his signature smile, the one fans knew, the one his manager praised. Even Jiru, standing behind him, gave him a playful nudge on the arm. Bet you'll land on something sweet. Or spicy, Kirishima grinned. Spicy always gets the best reactions. The wheel spun. Around and around. Colorful sections labeled, banana curry, ramen, pickled tuna, ice cream, chocolate dipped anchovies, deluxe wagyu bento, grilled cheese, sushi roll, manteco pasta with strawberry sauce, seaweed cola float. Izuku prayed. Please not the wagyu. Please not the bento. Please not the pasta. Not because they were bad. But because they were normal. Because real food meant danger. The wheel slowed. Tick. Tick. Deluxe wagyu bento. Cheers erupted. Jiro patted his shoulder, grinning. Lucky. Izuku swallowed tightly, smile twitching. Actually, he turned to the hosts, slightly flustered but charming. Ah, Jiro's been wanting wagyu for a while. Can I offer mine to her? I'll take the next spin. Ah, the host beamed. Such a gentleman. Look at that friendship chemistry, one announcer joked. Midoriya-san, you're too kind. The crowd clapped. His manager, offstage, nodded with approval. Good boy. Adapt. Shine. Obey. Izuku forced a laugh and stepped back as Jiro happily accepted the meal. Another spin. Seaweed cola float. Weird. Acidic. Fizzy. Not deadly. Perfect. The drink was handed to him with dramatic flair. He raised it high and smiled to the camera. Cheers, he said with a wink. He took a sip, the mix hitting his tongue like ocean brine and soda syrup. It was awful. But better than wagyu. He gagged just enough for it to pass as comedic. The audience roared in laughter. Even the staff clapped, and even his manager gave him another approving nod. See, her look said. You're doing better now. You're learning how to act through the sickness. But the truth. Izuku wasn't acting. His stomach was already churning. His throat burned. His jaw clenched tightly as he swallowed bile, praying it would hold. It didn't always hold. Sometimes he could mask it with dramatic reactions, spin the segment to humor. Sometimes, it was in bathrooms. Sometimes, in trash cans between scenes. Sometimes, just in his mouth, held in until he could spit out off camera. He wasn't just doing this today. He was doing this every day. Every set. Every break. Every time he was handed a plate with expectations, and every time he was too afraid to eat the real meals that tasted like comfort. Because comfort meant vomiting later. And vomiting meant shame. So this roulette of weird meals was his safety net. A shield made of anchovies and soda. As the segment ended and the applause faded, Izuku quietly bowed with the others. He smiled. He waved. He looked like he was glowing. But when he sat backstage again, his stomach twisted so painfully he had to grip the bench to stay upright. He pulled out his pills. Swallowed them dry. Then he checked his phone. No messages. No food updates. No comforting words from a voice that once said, "You look like someone who needs a proper meal." He missed him. He missed Katsuki. But maybe, after today, he missed himself even more. The part of him that didn't have to act. The part that could eat real food without hurting. The part that laughed for real with kids around a late-night cake. He looked down at his shaking hands. "I can't tell the world," he whispered, "but maybe I can survive one more show." The sky was gray, like it knew Izuku needed to blend in with something dull today. He wore oversized sunglasses, a fisherman hat low over his curls, and a thick scarf tucked around his mouth. Not even fans looking for gossip would connect this bundled-up figure with Midoriya Izuku, the radiant idol whose smile sold out stadiums and stirred thousands to tears. He clutched a plain medical file folder under one arm. He told his manager he needed rest and privacy today. And for once, they agreed. What he didn't say was that this would be the first time in years he would see a doctor for himself, not for a staged health clearance or a company-monitored checkup. He booked it under a false name. The nurse was kind. The waiting room too cold. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. The doctor, a middle-aged man with a gentle tone and crow's feet at the corners of his eyes, set the papers down after a long review. Mr. Midori, Hayashi, he corrected himself awkwardly, seeing the false name. You've described very specific symptoms. Repeated vomiting after eating, even with small portions. Your weight is significantly low for someone of your age and lifestyle. Izuku nodded. And you say this has been going on for, how long? A few years, he answered faintly. But it got worse when I debuted. I thought it was just stress. Or the diet. The doctor leaned forward slightly. Stress can worsen a condition. But this isn't just about stress. He tapped the papers softly. Your tests came back clear for physical damage, no ulcers, no infections, no organ failure. But your body reacts violently to food, not because of the food itself, but because of what your mind associates with eating. Izuku's throat tightened. You're describing a psychogenic vomiting disorder. Psychologically triggered. Meaning your body has learned to treat food as a threat either because of trauma, restriction, pressure, or emotional pain. So even when you try to eat, it treats every bite like an attack. Izuku's breath hitched. The room was silent, save for the soft hum of the heating vent. I see, he said quietly. And yet, the doctor continued, scanning his notes, you mentioned something very rare. You said, there's one person's food you can eat. Izuku hesitated before answering. Yes. It's a restaurant chef. I don't know why, but when he cooks, I can eat. Not everything, but more than usual. It doesn't make me sick right away. Sometimes, not at all. The doctor's expression didn't change, but his tone softened further. That makes sense. Izuku blinked. What do you mean? You've likely developed a psychological trust in that person's food. That cook, he might not realize it, but he represents something emotionally safe to you. Your brain has created an exception for him. His cooking might feel like care. Stability. A part of you is convinced it's safe, so the usual panic response doesn't activate as violently. Izuku didn't speak. He couldn't. Because suddenly, he remembered the first time he ate Katsuki's food. That ramen, steaming gently, not overly rich. The soft egg. The hint of herbs. He remembered crying, just silently crying because it tasted like something he'd forgotten he was allowed to have. Comfort. Peace. Care. Is there a cure? He asked hoarsely. There's no pill that can undo how the mind has trained your body to reject food. But therapy, nutritional support, and slowly reintroducing meals in controlled, emotionally supportive environments can help. But it's a long path. The doctor hesitated, then added gently, your career likely doesn't allow the kind of consistent support or pace your recovery might need. But if you keep eating meals that feel safe, if that chef is willing to help, then yes, you can begin to heal. Izuku sat still for a long time. Then smiled softly, worn, but real. Thank you. As he stood, gathering the folder and his bag, he didn't even realize a tear had slipped down his cheek. The air felt less heavy now. He didn't feel cured. Not even hopeful in a grand, sweeping way. But for the first time, he knew what was happening to him. He had a name for it. And maybe, just maybe, Katsuki's food wasn't magic after all. It was care. And his body was finally listening. Izuku walked down the street slowly. He didn't call anyone. He didn't run to Umi to hi. He just whispered to himself, so this is what healing might look like, not loud. Just, possible. Chapter 14, Portion of Hope. He sat on the cold floor of his kitchen, a half-finished bowl of congee in front of him. The rice was overcooked, the eggs rubbery. He had tried to remember what Katsuki used to add, something soft, fragrant, but his mind was hazy. His stomach rejected the food after 3 spoonfuls, violently, without hesitation. He didn't even have the strength to cry this time. Just silence. A tight throat. A dull ache in his chest. His head pressed against the cupboard behind him, breathing shallow. Kaken. The name lingered in his mind, soft and fragile. Like a memory. Like a lifeline. He turned to his phone lying face down on the tiles. Slowly, carefully, he reached for it. His fingers hovered above the screen before he typed out a message. Simple. Honest. A little desperate. Kaken, can you do me a favor? Can you offer to my agency to be cook for idols' meals? I can't come to your restaurant, but I hope to eat meals that isn't restricted. I'm dying to eat your meals. He stared at the message. His thumb hovered over send. Would Katsuki laugh? Ask questions. Say it's too much. He didn't expect a reply right away. He didn't expect anything at all. But within minutes a single message came in. Okay. No follow-up. No questions. No teasing. Izuku read it 5 times over. His lips trembled. Not quite a smile. Not quite tears either. He didn't know what he expected, but that one word settled something in him. Because in Izuku's mind, it had been a foolish request. A simple random joke. He was curled up on his couch now, arms around a pillow, phone still in his hand. That okay wasn't loud. Wasn't romantic. Wasn't even emotional. But to Izuku, it was louder than any crowd he ever sang for. He stared at the screen, then whispered through a dry throat, "Thank you, Kaken." And for the first time in weeks, he fell asleep not with hunger in his belly but hope in his chest. But to Katsuki, it was a mission. The message came through just as he was finishing his notes for a new seasonal menu. The moment Katsuki saw the name, he stopped everything. Midoriya Izuku. He hadn't heard that voice in 2 months. And now this. A favor. Katsuki didn't need the full story. He didn't ask why Izuku couldn't eat. Didn't even demand answers about what exactly was wrong. Because that one line, "I'm dying to eat your meals," was enough. He reread the message, jaw clenched, eyes sharp. So he replied, "Okay." Then, he opened a different tab and began drafting a proposal. Not for an endorsement. Not for PR. For an official nutrition collaborative service contract to offer tailored meal plans for entertainers within Izuku's company. The Bakugo name wasn't just flash and fire, it had weight. His reputation in the culinary field reached nutritionists, dietitians, and competitive food institutes across the globe. If anyone could negotiate a partnership with the agency that guarded Izuku like a cage, it was him. He included his credentials. Structured proposals. Balanced, macros-based menu options for high-performance idols. Even a special notation labeled, Midoriya Izuku, High Alert Priority Plan. A meals to be sent daily, to be logged, warm, fresh, and approved for both digestion and psychological comfort. It was written clinically. But between the lines, it screamed, "I see you. I'll feed you. I'll save you one bite at a time." Music Pro Entertainment Headquarters, Artist Wing Hallway. Izuku wasn't even supposed to be walking through this floor. His studio for today's recording session was farther down, but he forgot his water bottle in the rehearsal room. Rushing past the sleek glass doors and muted walls, he turned a corner and nearly stumbled right into someone. A firm chest. Familiar. Him. Kac. Izuku choked the word back into his throat. Bakugo Katsuki stood in front of him, sharp in his black button-down, sleeves half-rolled, eyes half-lidded with just enough irritation to look like he owned the building. Izuku's jaw almost dropped. He looked too good. He blinked twice, fast. Oh no. He's here. He's really here. Is he? Is he really doing this for me? For my dumb joke of a message? It felt like the past 48 hours of rationalizing were suddenly pointless. His heart pounded. But before he could stammer out even a "hello," a staff from his team ran over. Midoriya-san, your studio time starts in 2 minutes. We need to prep your vocal warm-up now. Izuku looked back and forth between the studio hall and Katsuki. I wait, he mumbled, but the staff was already gently guiding him toward the recording hallway. He gave one last look behind him. Katsuki hadn't moved, but he lifted his phone, calm as ever. Then tilted it ever so slightly for Izuku to see. A message, bold and clear on the screen: bear with today's meals. I got your back. Comfort is coming, even inside your company. Izuku stood frozen. The hallway light caught his eyes, glassy and shining. His fingers gripped his phone tighter, as if he could hold the message from afar. The staff tugged his arm. Midoriya-san, I'm coming, he said, voice a little thick. He turned back one more time. Katsuki just gave him a small, almost imperceptible nod. No smug grin. No teasing smirk. Just presence. Confidence. Reassurance in its rawest form. When Izuku sat in front of the mic, headphones over his ears, the producer's voice sounded muffled behind the glass. His lyric sheet lay before him, but his eyes didn't see it. He was thinking about that message. His chest filled with something warm. And as the soft instrumental filled the room, Izuku sang his lines with something different in his voice. Something that hadn't been there for a long time. Peace. The atmosphere inside the conference room was stiff, quiet, polished. Senior producers, head of PR, top coordinators of artist care and promotion, and even the COO himself was present for this unusual meeting. Because Bakugo Katsuki doesn't schedule anything that isn't worth everyone's time. Katsuki sat at the head of the table with a tablet in hand, dressed in clean black slacks and a charcoal suit shirt rolled sleeves, of course. He wasn't one for dramatics, but the confidence he exuded carried a gravity that demanded attention. He tapped the screen, displaying slides of professional meal plans, tailored dishes, and nutrition-compliant plating techniques. I'm proposing a collaborative meal service under Omi to High, personalized for each idol's nutritional chart, he explained. Packed, delivered fresh, and prepared to meet both medical guidelines and palate satisfaction. One of the board members leaned forward, skeptical. Why now, Chef Bakugo? What's in it for you? Katsuki didn't hesitate. Call it returning a favor, he said, his voice even. When I opened my restaurant, Omi to High, your company lent me your top idol Midoriya Izuku to front my launch campaign. That one commercial alone turned 3 months of projected traffic into 3 days' worth of sold-out service. The room exchanged impressed glances. Katsuki continued, slowly. It's only fair I return the favor. And I'll do that the way I know best, through meals that support the stars you're depending on. A pause followed. Then the COO chuckled, folding his hands together. We were just talking about how that commercial remains one of our highest engagement spots. Izuku certainly gave your food more than just a spotlight. The marketing head nodded. And the fans love that connection. That's real influence. Authentic. Which is why, said another, it's only right we thank Midoriya-san too for helping our company become more than the best. Stronger. Fuller. Human. Katsuki's lips twitched into the softest smirk. I'd be glad to personally thank him, with more of the meals he enjoys. Everyone caught the meaning. But no one questioned it. Now, instead of the usual tray of tasteless salad and filtered water, Izuku returned to his dressing room to find a neat wooden box wrapped in eco-friendly paper. He blinked. A note on top read, approved by your agency nutritionist. Prepared by Omi to High Kitchen. This set includes egg custard, warm root vegetable soup, and rice with turmeric and lemon zest chicken. He sat on the bench, hands trembling. The aroma was comforting. Familiar. His first bite didn't make him cry, but it made him close his eyes. This was real. He was eating inside his company. Without fear. Without throwing up. Without guilt. It tasted like freedom. It tasted like home. Chapter 15, rewritten. When Izuku checked his phone, still lying on his bed after another numbing shoot, he saw a single message from Katsuki: "Kaken, you're officially allowed to eat again. Higher-ups approved it. Your food won't be just food anymore. It'll be mine. Your chart's in my hands now. Sleep well tonight, Izuku. And eat tomorrow." Izuku stared at the screen. Then burst into tears. Tears of relief. Tears of release. Tears for hope. Because for the first time in so long, he didn't feel like he was starving himself just to stay alive in a world that demands too much. Katsuki stayed behind with the head of Idol Logistics, who carried a thick binder of schedules and dietary charts. "Before we start," Katsuki said, "I want to see Midoriya's chart. The real one. What his manager's been following." The staff hesitated. "I'm not sure if I'm not doing this blind." His tone was calm but sharp. "If he's your top idol, and I'm now your trusted culinary partner, I deserve to know what I'm working with. This isn't just food anymore. This is his life." The room fell quiet again. Then, the staff slid the binder across the table. Katsuki flipped through it. Restrictive calories. Low-carb, low-fat meals. 2 actual food. Entries per day, the rest replaced with digestive supplements and weight stabilizers. A red warning highlight across the top, subject to meal removal upon fluctuation. 0 tolerance on unauthorized intakes. Hydration regulation active. Katsuki clenched his jaw. He slammed the binder shut. This isn't a food chart. This is a slow method of starvation. The staff swallowed hard. "We didn't." His manager, "I'm not here to blame," Katsuki cut in. "I'm here to rewrite this." The clock struck 1:10 p.m., and the food for the idols arrived in pristine, silver-insulated boxes labeled carefully for each artist. A familiar tag caught the manager's sharp eyes: Midoriya Izuku, meal prepared by Omi Tahai. The corner of her mouth twitched. That place again. She had half a mind to toss it aside and prepare Izuku's usual salad and nutrient shake. But this time, there was something else attached: a formal DLVRY sheet. It wasn't just a branded card. It was detailed. Professionally structured. Signed by Bakugo Katsuki himself. The manager flipped through it. Caloric count, heavy checkmark. Vitamin and mineral chart, heavy checkmark. Dietary restrictions, heavy checkmark. Hydration control notes, heavy checkmark. Adjustments noted under physician recommended feedback, heavy checkmark. She blinked slowly. So he really did his homework. She turned to Izuku, who was sitting quietly, scrolling on his phone with earbuds in. She tapped the table once. "Your food." Izuku glanced at the box, the familiar Omi Tahai logo making his heart skip. Then he looked up at her, unsure, waiting for the warning, the lecture, the check of his chart. But instead, she simply said, "Eat it while it's still warm." Izuku blinked. No scolding. No pill shoved into his hand. His fingers trembled slightly as he opened the box. Inside, a steamed custard rested beside grilled fish with a tang of citrus, lightly seasoned vegetables arranged like an art piece, and miso soup with shiso. His manager watched. And that's when she saw it. For the first time in what felt like years, Midoriya Izuku looked excited to eat. Like a child who wasn't scared of being punished. Like someone who actually had an appetite. She froze. When was the last time he smiled like that over a meal? She stepped out quietly, head down, arms crossed with the chart still in hand. Katsuki Bakugo was standing by the DLVRY cart, scanning each artist's label, making sure every dish went where it should. When he heard the door open, he turned, catching the flicker of emotion on her face. "Manager-san." She paused, tried to collect herself, then crossed her arms tighter. "You really went through every line of his dietary chart." Katsuki handed a box to another assistant, then walked beside her as she hovered by the door. Of course I did. I'm not about to half-butt this just 'cause I'm fond of the guy. She gave him a skeptical look. Fond, huh? All this because of a commercial contract. Katsuki smirked and shrugged. You could say that. She looked away, biting back the strange mix of irritation and guilt swirling in her chest. You know. I've managed him since he was 16. I saw the comments. Every time he gained 2 pounds, they questioned his will to be an idol. Called him fake. Lazy. He almost quit once because of that. I promised him I'd help protect what makes him shine. Her voice faltered slightly. I know I'm strict. I know he fears me when food's involved. But I did what I had to. I thought, if he keeps the form, they'll keep praising him. And if they praise him, maybe he'll feel loved. Katsuki stayed quiet. Then gently handed her a different box, one not labeled, for Izuku. Meal for the manager, he said. You work hard, too. She blinked in surprise, caught off guard. But before she could comment, Katsuki leaned closer. I get it. You're just trying to protect your artist the best way you know how. He met her eyes, serious now. But I'm protecting the same person. Just, the version of him who's starving while smiling. That hit her hard. Hard enough to make her look down again. He stepped back. You saw him, didn't you? Just now. That look on his face. Like he forgot what it felt like to eat without fear. The manager sighed, soft. I did. She chuckled bitterly, almost ashamed. It's kinda offensive, honestly. Years of planning and portioning, and you make him smile in 2 meals. Katsuki chuckled too. What can I say? I'm a DMN good cook. They shared a small, understanding silence. Then Katsuki added, smirking slightly, I don't want to lose him in the crowd, you know. Just 'cause he's got malnutrition. Wouldn't look good on your resume either, right? She laughed despite herself. It was the first time she did in weeks. Cocky and clever. You really are dangerous. He gave her a small wave as he turned back toward the kitchen to prepare the next batch. And you're finally feeding him right. We'll call it progress. Summer Pulse concert, backstage exit tunnel. The stadium was roaring, lights flaring, chants echoing, camera flashes like fireworks as Midoriya Izuku stepped off the stage, drenched in sweat, breath heaving, but glowing. His performance was electric. Fluid. Powerful. His eyes sparkled with something different now, vitality. He was met with a flood of staff, stylists with towels, his manager shouting schedules, earpiece assistants giving countdowns to the next set. Izuku bowed in thanks, waving politely to the monitors, but his gaze was searching. And then he saw him. Standing just outside the press zone, far enough not to cause attention, but near enough that Izuku couldn't miss him, Bakugo Katsuki. Wearing plain black, his cap slightly tilted down, a cooling bottle of electrolyte water and lemon drink in each hand. Izuku's eyes widened like a boy seeing fireworks. He rushed forward before the staff could stop him, grinning. No cameras now. No pretending. No manager blocking the moment. Kaken. He almost bounced to him, sweat flying off his brow as he grabbed the drink. The bottle was ice cold, condensation running down his fingers like the cooling relief he never expected. You came, Izuku breathed out. Katsuki didn't even get to answer before Izuku instinctively threw his arms around him in a quick, tight hug. It was fast. Breathless. But it was everything. Katsuki barely managed to grunt out a teasing, "Oi sweaty nerd," before a stylist's voice echoed down the tunnel. Midoriya-san. Dress change in 2 minutes. Izuku gasped. Shoot. He pulled back, holding the drink close to his chest like a treasure, then looked up at Katsuki one more time. Wait for me. I'm watching. You, Katsuki replied. Izuku nodded, running off with a glance behind, smiling so wide it hurt. Minutes later, Katsuki's phone vibrated. Izuku, green circle, I'll visit Umi to High tonight after the show. Bringing my staff too. I told them we need a proper celebration feast. Grinning face with smiling eyes, Katsuki stared at the screen and just chuckled, wagging his head with a crooked grin. Bringing your entourage now, huh, he muttered to himself. Looks like I'm cooking for the whole production team, again. He called to his DLVRY crew and kitchen assistant, alerting them on flipping open the restaurant prep list on his tablet in an hour. Kaminari, we're going full throttle tonight. Why, boss? The star's coming, Katsuki replied, scrolling on his list of ingredients, and this time, he's bringing the whole DMN galaxy with him. Chapter 16, Emberlight. The big, modern but earthy restaurant glowed under amber lights, the long wooden tables decked with soft lanterns and ceramic plates that weren't just for display. The hum of laughter filled the air, trailing behind concert staff, dancers, stylists, and a few fellow idols from supporting acts who accepted Izuku's casual invite. But the true light of the party. Midoriya Izuku. Dressed in cozy post-show clothes, just a sweater, cap, and flushed cheeks, he lit up the space with his laughter. His eyes twinkled as he tapped his chopsticks on his bowl and bragged, "You guys think I'm the star? Wait till you eat Katsuki's food. This guy's a monster. An actual food genius." Gasps of disbelief rippled around the table. Some of the junior dancers blinked at him. Midoriya-san, you're actually bragging about someone. Wait, the Bakugo-san from the commercial. He's your friend. Izuku chuckled and nodded toward the counter. There, behind the kitchen half-wall, Katsuki Bakugo stood quietly, apron tied at his back, sleeves pushed up, focused only on one plate. That plate was for Izuku. Others watched as Umi to High's other staff, Kaminari, Riko, a chef named Shin, buzzed around plating group meals and starters, following Katsuki's soft instructions. But for Izuku's food, Katsuki did everything himself. Each ingredient touched by his hand. Every movement, every garnish, a silent devotion. One of the dancers whispered, "Is this normal for Bakugo-san to personally cook for him?" Kaminari smirked as he passed by with skewers. "For Midoriya. Yeah. That's normal." More murmurs followed. Some thought it was a publicity stunt. Others quietly wondered if there was something between them. But then Katsuki brought Izuku's plate out himself: steamed egg custard with shiso, lightly roasted daikon, miso grilled chicken over brown rice with roasted yuzu. Izuku's eyes widened like it was Christmas. "No way. This one again. My favorite." Katsuki shrugged, setting it down. "You earned it. Now eat." Izuku pouted playfully. "You make it sound like I'm a stray cat." "A DMN picky one," Katsuki muttered, walking away. But Izuku just grinned and dug in. Meanwhile, the others watched as Izuku ate without hesitation. No guarded smiles. No slow, reluctant bites like at rehearsals. "I've never seen him eat like that," someone whispered. "He doesn't even touch rice when we're filming." Another stylist blinked in disbelief. "I always thought he was just naturally like that. Not a foodie." Jairu, sitting nearby with her arms crossed, gave a knowing smirk but said nothing. Uraraka leaned toward her. "You knew." "I suspected. Let's just say, there's only one place I've seen him actually clean his plate." They both looked to the front, where Katsuki brought Izuku a small dish of warm custard with honey. Not for show. Not for dessert. Just because Izuku once mentioned it comforted him. Izuku beamed and said softly, "You remembered again." Katsuki gave a tiny scoff. "Course I did. You only praised that DMN thing like 12 times. And as the night wound down, and staff began to thank the restaurant crew, a few of them noted that Midoriya stayed still at the corner booth. Still eating not out of pressure or habit, but genuine enjoyment. No one brought up his famously small appetite. No one noticed he had eaten 3 full servings. They just thought, wow, he must really like this place. And behind the kitchen wall, Katsuki watched in silence. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't showing off. He just watched him. The bright star in his restaurant. The only customer he personally cooks for. The only person whose empty bowl made his heart feel full. The last of the guests had left. Empty bowls were stacked neatly on the edge of the table, the lanterns had dimmed just a little, and the buzz of the party simmered into a cozy quiet. Izuku leaned back against the booth, grinning like a kid caught with a second slice of cake. His manager stood at the entrance, arms crossed, watching him sip his ginger-infused tea with the kind of contentment she rarely saw on his face. "Can I stay a little longer?" Izuku asked softly, his voice hopeful but measured. "Kaken already knows my unit. He can walk me home." He glanced toward Katsuki, who was wiping down the counter with lazy ease, sleeves still rolled, apron still snug around his waist. Without even looking up, Katsuki caught her gaze and gave a single nod. Confident. Capable. No words needed. Izuku's manager sighed, part exasperation, part surrender. "Just this once," she said, eyes narrowing at him. "I don't even want to know how many times you've snuck around to come here or how much time you spend with this man, but since I'm too tired to argue and you actually look genuinely happy to stay," she sighed again, softening. "I'll give you that." Izuku clasped his hands together in mock celebration, beaming like a child granted extra playtime. "Yes. Thank you, thank you. Kaken's charm is really working on you, huh?" His manager let out a laugh, half amused, half defeated. She looked toward Katsuki again, who arched a brow at the exchange but didn't say anything. "Just take care of him, Mr. Bakugo." "I always do," Katsuki answered simply, voice low but sure. His manager blinked, unsure if it was a joke or something heavier, but nodded, eyes softening before she finally left, muttering something about going home to actual adults who don't sneak meals like teenagers. As the door closed behind her, Izuku exhaled a long breath. He let himself fall against the cushion with a sleepy smile. "She never lets me off that easily." Katsuki chuckled as he walked over, towel still in hand. "Told you. I'm irresistible." Full of yourself again, Izuku mumbled behind his